Hey there, everyone, and welcome back to Utility Sports. Today, we are going live for the NBA trade deadline. This is our NBA trade deadline special. We are starting here at noon Central Standard Time on March 25th. The trade deadline is just 2 short hours away, 2 o'clock Central Time, 3 o'clock Eastern Time for those of you on the East Coast. And we've already had a huge flurry of moves, one being a 3-team trade where Philadelphia, the 76ers, have acquired George Hill. The New York Knicks land Terrence Ferguson and in turn send Austin Rivers, Tony Bradley, and 2 seconds, as well as Iggy Brzdakis to the Oklahoma City Thunder. That is the move we just saw most recently happen at this point. Additionally, the Magic have made a ton of moves today, including 3 themselves. They have traded center Nikola Vucevic to the Chicago Bulls. And in turn, they brought in Otto Porter Jr., Wendell Carter, 2 first-round picks. That is a very, very good price for Nikola Vucevic. The 30-year-old center having a career year goes over to Chicago, forms a legit top conversation with Zach LaVine, 2 all-star level players that are now playing together in Chicago. Really like that move. Both sides, the Orlando Magic have opened themselves up for a serious rebuild, something that they badly need to do. I think that they've been making great decisions. They also traded guard/forward Evan Fournier to the Boston Celtics. They got 2 second-round picks in that deal. Boston using their massive trade exception to bring in Evan Fournier. Now, the interesting thing is he's expiring. They have to make a decision. Are they going to want him long-term? I think that they are going to opt for yes at this point. I think he will be a long-term member of the Boston Celtics. Welcome everyone to the stream that is in here currently. We love having you guys in here. We really appreciate you stopping by. Also, the Magic have traded forward Aaron Gordon to the Denver Nuggets. They got a very good price on him as well. They got a 2025 first-round pick that is slightly protected by the Denver Nuggets. Also, in addition to that, they got Gary Harris and former first-round pick RJ Hampton. Some nice young pieces for them to kind of build around moving forward. I think that this is a good situation for both sides there as well. The Orlando Magic making great moves. Sid and C, welcome to the stream. He says, sup to my favorite YouTubers. Glad you're loving the channel, Sid, and we love having you in here so much. And he wants to know my reaction to the Vucevic trade. Let's go ahead and pull that up on stream here right now for you guys. This is a big-time move, to be completely honest with you. Yes, Sid and C, Hampton did get traded. I will break that down in just a second here. Let me go in and focus here now on this trade between the Bulls and the Orlando Magic. Here at this point, the trade is the Bulls acquire Nikola Vucevic and forward Al-Farouq Aminu for forward Otto Porter, center Wendell Carter Jr., and 2 first-round picks. Like Wojnarowski said, this is a big-time move for the Chicago Bulls. They bring in an all-star level center, 30 years old, but they also get a quality wing in Al-Farouq Aminu back to replace Otto Porter. And now the Magic are hitting the reset button on the roster. Bulls here are getting the Magic, are sending the Magic the 2021 and 2023 first-round picks. And remember, right now the Bulls aren't even in the playoff picture. If Vucevic comes in, if they don't start winning games, miss the playoffs, that could be another lottery asset for Orlando, and that 2023 first could be very valuable as well. The Bulls, they're a good team. I don't think they're great, though. I think that this is a no-brainer move for Orlando at this point. The Vucevic trade really surprised me. I was not expecting him to actually get moved. I thought he was going to stay in Orlando for at least another year. However, he is under contract. The Bulls bring in the center they've been looking for. The whole Wendell Carter situation didn't work out. I think Wendell Carter is going to have a good situation ahead of him in Orlando, trying to be their franchise center. We'll see if he can develop a little bit more there with the situation in Orlando. But yes, Sid and C, Hampton did get traded, and I will break down where that one is at this point. It is another move with the Orlando Magic. They have been making a ton of moves. And this one, Gary Harris was going from Denver. And there it is right here. Gary Harris, RJ Hampton, and a first-round pick to the Magic for Aaron Gordon. That first-round pick, I believe, is in 2025. So it is a little bit of the ways out. But RJ Hampton, former first-round pick this past year, goes to Orlando. Gary Harris is the salary cap match for the Denver Nuggets. They are much improved now at this point. They needed to move on from Gary Harris. People thought last year it could be Drew Holiday. This year, instead, it's for Aaron Gordon, has 1 year on his deal after this year yet. And they have to send out RJ Hampton and also a first-round pick for a player that is having a career year. He's shooting 39% from three at this point. He's been absolutely balling out in recent weeks for the Orlando Magic. Hasn't resulted to a lot of wins there in Orlando, but he's a great fit next to Nikola Jokic. And look at Gordon being a nice complementary piece. They missed some of that athleticism that they lost with Jeremy Grant. Now Aaron Gordon going to be a nice piece. And also here, Orlando gets to see if they can put Gary Harris's career back on track. He was a nice young player, struggled with some injuries, and just hasn't been able to find some consistency since then. He's a guy who I think could be really benefited by being in Orlando. RJ Hampton, we're looking at a pretty full backcourt there now in Orlando, however. Markelle Fultz out this year, but he will be back. Also, Cole Anthony and now RJ Hampton. They have two first-round point guards from this past year, and they also have a former number one overall pick in Markelle Fultz. This rebuild in Orlando is going to be really interesting. They brought in 3 first-round picks today. They've been making great moves. I really love everything that Orlando has done to this point. I think at this point, if the trade deadline did end, Orlando would be the big winner for me with the moves they made. They traded a 30-year-old center for 2 first-round picks, a nice young center in Wendell Carter, not nearly at the level that Nikola Vucevic is at, don't get me wrong, but at the same time, their timeline wasn't going to work around Vucevic. They made a great move. Nugget Master says, sup, he doesn't follow the NBA, but just wanted to say hi. Welcome to the stream, Nugget Master. We love having you in here. It means a lot having you guys stop in, say hi to us. We really appreciate it. Julian M. Racky says, let's go. I was waiting for the stream. Yes, we had it scheduled right for noon. Got here just on time. Glad to have you in here, Julian. It is awesome having all the support from you guys that we do. We have the best viewers on the planet. I firmly believe that. Don't forget, we will be doing a live stream for the NFL draft that's coming up here in just a little bit. Now, the focus for Orlando is probably going to be on Terrence Ross. Does Terrence Ross get traded? We'll talk about that in just a second here after I answer Timothy Cohn's question. Thoughts on Fournier? Does this trade give Boston what they need to compete? Yes and no. They're much better now than they were just yesterday after adding Evan Fournier. I really like what he brings to the table for an NBA team. I think that he's got a lot of nice qualities. He can get a shot off in the mid-range, something they badly need there in Boston. He's a competitive defender. He can space the floor, spot up in the corner and off the wing. I think he gives them a nice little group of what they needed back. But at the same point, I still don't see them beating Milwaukee. I still don't see them beating Brooklyn. And that's going to be the 2 teams that you have to get over in the East. Fournier is a nice player. He just doesn't put them over the top, in my opinion. However, not every move is going to lead you to a championship. This is going to help them be a better team. They needed another wing-type player to complement Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum. They've been badly missing Gordon Hayward this year. No one's been talking about that. Gordon Hayward was a big, big loss for the Boston Celtics, rather. Evan Fournier from the Orlando Magic comes in to fill that loss. However, they have to go into this offseason, probably extend him, keep him around. Now, they got him for a pretty good price, only 2 second-round picks. However, you got to be wondering if Danny Ainge is regretting not keeping Gordon Hayward around. Now, I want to know some of your guys' other questions about the NBA trade deadline, and I also want to talk a little bit about Terrence Ross here, what I think could be going down with him moving forward. And the one thing for me is Terrence Ross is definitely an interesting player. He's had some really good years, some really up and down years, and I think he would be a player benefited by finding a new home as well. Orlando just needs to really full-on hit that reset button. They've already done it. They traded 3 of their top players this year. They've got to trade their 4th. Terrence Ross, he's got to go out the door somewhere to a contending team. A team like the Lakers could really use Terrence Ross, someone who can get his points off the bench, can get his shot up. Very athletic player still at this point of his career. I think he would be a good fit there in Los Angeles if they are looking to make that move. Also, possibly Philadelphia if they move on from Danny Green. I think a 3-team deal where Danny Green maybe goes out to the Warriors, the Magic bring in Kelly Oubre, and Terrence Ross goes over to Philadelphia. I think that does make some sense as well. Let me know in the comments what you guys think about that. I would love to hear some of your other questions about the NBA trade deadline. One name to watch today as well is Rajon Rondo. There's rumors that the Clippers are looking at Rajon Rondo. A few other teams probably are interested in the point guard as well. His tenure in Atlanta just hasn't gone so smoothly yet at this point. And I think Atlanta's looking to maybe try and retool this roster around Trae Young. They're probably looking for a few ways that they can really improve at this point. And right now, I'm just not really sure if Rajon Rondo fits into the long-term look of this Atlanta Hawks roster. Now, they are winning a lot of games as of recent. They have been very, very good since they fired Lloyd Pierce. They made the right decision there. However, I think that they're going to look at their roster, analyze themselves critically, and say, is this team good enough to get where we want to go with Trae Young? At this point, I don't think they believe that. John Collins, he could be on his way out. That's going to be the big-time name to watch today. He's a 23-year-old star. He is budding on both ends of the floor, especially offensively. The last 2 years has really expanded his range. As a shooter, as a floor spacer off of Trae Young, he would be a great fit for a variety of teams, especially my Dallas Mavericks. I would love for him to land in Dallas. I think that would be a great situation for both John Collins and the Dallas Mavericks, putting him next to Kristaps and Luka. We'll see if the Atlanta Hawks get an offer that they really do like for John Collins. Otherwise, we could see them sitting on John Collins yet at this point as well. Julian Emraki says, love Ross to the Lakers. What do you think about Lowry being a front runner for the Lakers? I don't know if that moves the needle much for us. That's an interesting thought there on Kyle Lowry, because I do think he's probably now played his last game with the Toronto Raptors. We saw the whole saga with Drake FaceTiming him during his press conference, him throwing up the deuces to the camera. It does not seem like Kyle Lowry is going to be back for the Toronto Raptors, unfortunately. He's the best Raptor to ever play, to be honest. What he's given to that franchise over the last 7-8 years has been absolutely magnificent. And the two sides departing would be a little sad to see. I'm not going to lie. I don't think Lowry's going to land with the Los Angeles Lakers. I think that money situation is a little tough. However, we saw the 76ers make a move for a point guard already today, George Hill. That makes me think that they are out of the running for Kyle Lowry. I would love to know what you guys think. Do you think Kyle Lowry is going to get traded today, and where do you think he will land? I would love to hear in the comment section what you think. Let's do another run over Twitter. Let's go over some more of the moves breaking down by Adrian Wojnarowski. Let's break these down for you guys here. Orlando also going in the deal. Orlando also sending Gary Clark in the deal, rather. Nemanja Bjelica heading to the Miami Heat. That is a trade that the Heat need to make. They badly have missed that power forward position since they lost Jay Crowder in free agency. And they got him for very cheap. Only had to send Mo Harkless and Chris Silva. I talked about the Kings probably starting a new rebuild. Nemanja Bjelica on his way out. That was the no-brainer one. Now the big question is there a trade market for Harrison Barnes, especially after the Celtics have used their trade exception on Evan Fournier? I don't think so at this point. And does Buddy Hield have suitors around the NBA? I think he's a guy who the fans and media think he's a little bit more valuable than he really is by executives and GMs. I would be surprised if he commands a very good package at all. Actually, at this point, that would just be kind of surprising to me, but I think Sacramento is a team to watch. Here was the 3-team deal where OKC sends George Hill to the Philadelphia 76ers. In turn, they get Tony Bradley. Austin Rivers goes to Oklahoma City as well. The Knicks brought in Terrence Ferguson in this deal. Also, the future seconds went over to Oklahoma City in that trade. And what was a pretty big trade for George Hill? Think about this. Philadelphia paid almost as much for George Hill, if not more, than what Boston paid for Evan Fournier. That is why I like Boston grabbing Evan Fournier. They got him for a good price. And now this is a very, very big-time trade, actually. Toronto dealing Norman Powell to the Portland Trailblazers for guard Gary Trent and also forward Rodney Hood. Rodney Hood having a very down year. I knew he was going to be a big-time trade candidate because he's got a pretty good salary in terms of matching contracts, and he just hasn't really performed super great for the Portland Trailblazers. I think that Achilles injury was devastating for his career, really set him back. However, now Toronto sends out Norman Powell, gets younger, it's a physical guard who can really defend in Gary Trent. I love this move for the Toronto Raptors. This is one of those moves that points to Kyle Lowry more than likely getting traded today as well, in my opinion, because they went out, brought in a young guard who can probably play next to Fred VanVleet in the starting lineup, gives you a good 1-2 combination, one offensively. And I guess here is some news. The Los Angeles Clippers are in talks for Kyle Lowry. I had been talking about this on the channel for months, that Kyle Lowry is the piece that makes a lot of sense for the Los Angeles Clippers, because they have the way to match the money with Marcus Morris. They can get to his money number pretty easily there in Los Angeles. And also, on top of the Clippers bringing in Kyle Lowry, you're looking at the whole dynamic of, hey, this is the point guard that won a championship with Kawhi Leonard. They already brought in the big man Serge Ibaka from that team. Now they're looking to possibly bring in the guard that was there, that was good enough to put together a championship run, and you have Paul George on top of it. And at this point, I honestly just think that the Clippers do need to make a move. Patrick Beverley is probably going to go out the door in a move for Kyle Lowry. That would be my guess. Let's actually try and mock up a trade here at some point. Benjamin Goldner, welcome to the stream. He wants to know, do you think the Cavs will do anything? Thanks so much for the great content. Keep it up, man. Glad you're loving the streams, Benjamin. We love having you in here. Keep asking questions, guys. You guys ask the best questions on YouTube. I love answering them. Love talking some basketball with you guys. Also, you know how much I love talking football with you guys on the football streams. So just keep up asking these great questions. I'd also love to know who your favorite teams are. And for the Cleveland Cavaliers, I think that they're going to be active today on the phones. They're going to be making a lot of calls around the league. They already made a move. JaVale McGee got sent to, I believe, was it the Denver Nuggets? Some of the trades are starting to blend together. I'm sure it was the Denver Nuggets. They brought in an athletic rim-running center. I love JaVale McGee's game, actually. I think he's a very valuable piece that's a little underrated throughout the media, through fans around the league. Sure, he's a little bit of a goofball, especially when he was younger in his career. He did not make, the smartest plays very often, but he's really grown as a player. He's been a part of multiple championship teams, and by being a part of it, I mean he was a key piece. He was often a starting center or the first center off the bench. That is an important role for a championship caliber team. And I think that was a good move for the Cavs, because you move on from him, but you got some assets back in that deal, and I think the Nuggets needed to make that move. Now the Cavs today, they're going to be making calls about Kevin Love and Andre Drummond. However, I just don't see a trade really going down. I don't think a lot of teams are interested in making a move for Andre Drummond. It's just hard to see a team able to roll out upwards of $23 million in order to get to the needed money to make a trade there with Cleveland. And Cleveland's not going to be looking to take in bad contracts, especially when Drummond's expiring. They're going to go into a buyout with him. At this point, they don't need to really pull the trigger on anything that's going to set them back financially. And instead, they would just let Andre Drummond walk at some point. They're not going to get a very good asset if they do trade him. And Kevin Love, his name's been a little quieter this trade deadline than others. I just don't see him getting moved still at this point. It's a little bit too much going on with his contract, the whole situation. Look for the Cleveland Cavaliers to be more active, buying out players and looking to retool this roster through the draft like we've seen in recent years. Sid and C says, like the stream right now. Yes, guys, we have multiple viewers at the moment. Try and hit that like button if you can. It would be very, very awesome if you guys could go ahead and do that for me right now. I would love that. Let's try and get it to at least 10 likes on the stream at this point. Renando Tate wants to know, or says, the New York Knicks need Lonzo Ball. I think Lonzo Ball would be a great acquisition for the New York Knicks. However, I'm not really sure what his going price is at this point. He's having a career year shooting north of 42% from the field, 39% from three, about 6 assists a game, scoring about 14 points a night. He has really emerged there in New Orleans. And I think New Orleans is trying to maximize his value, trying to find a point guard who's going to be a little bit more dynamic as a scorer and someone who can really get their own shot off the dribble more often. However, their situation is very, very interesting because they had made a move for Steven Adams. Stan Van Gundy, I just don't like what he believes in terms of personnel, in terms of the lineups he runs. I'm just not a fan of Stan Van Gundy's as a coach, so it's hard to really know what the Pelicans are going to be looking for out on the trade market at this point, especially when you consider that they've made some moves in the past that are just a little bit of head scratchers to me. I didn't like the Steven Adams one specifically. Brandon Ingram, Zion Williamson, that's their core there. I didn't understand why they brought in a non-floor spacing big that just didn't really open the lane for either of those two players. I think that was a bad move. We'll see if they move on from Lonzo Ball today. I think the Atlanta Hawks are going to be very interested in Lonzo Ball. I think that the Los Angeles Clippers, if they can't get a deal done for Kyle Lowry, could ultimately be the team that goes and pays the price to get Lonzo Ball at this point. David Murphy says, do you think Sacramento will trade Marvin Bagley III for some draft picks? No, I don't think they'll trade him for draft picks. I think that they'll trade him for another young player who just hasn't really worked out to this point. Marvin Bagley's trade value is extremely, extremely low, and teams are not going to be lining up to give up picks. I would be absolutely shocked if the Sacramento Kings got even a first-round pick from a contending team for Marvin Bagley. He's just not worth that on the trade market right now. His career is going to go down probably as being known as the guy who was drafted before Luka Doncic. That's kind of the route we see his career at this point. The Kings in a tough situation. That was a missed pick by Vlade Divac. And at this point, they're going to be paying the repercussions of that. I think he does get traded today, more than likely. However, it's not going to be for a high-end asset. Some teams that could be interested, I think the Mavericks would be interested in bringing in his athleticism at that big man position. I also think that the Cleveland Cavaliers could be a team to watch there, trying to capitalize. Also, the Detroit Pistons. They were in talks with the Kings for Marvin Bagley. However, the Kings wanted Sadiq Bey. The Pistons weren't willing to do that. We'll see if they come down from that moving forward. Sid and C wants to know if I think the Golden State Warriors can land Buddy Hield. And I think that could be an interesting possibility. He thinks Wiggins for Buddy. That does make some sense. And he said maybe a pick. The Warriors wouldn't be giving up the pick here. Wiggins is a better player than Buddy Hield. A much better player, actually, in my opinion. I think Buddy Hield is a nice floor spacer, someone who can get his shot off in the pick and roll. I think he brings a lot of nice pieces. I think David Murphy's a little bit closer on this time of Kelly Oubre for Buddy Hield. However, the money gets a little tough there. That is the tough situation for the Golden State Warriors, is how do you make money really work when it comes to acquiring Buddy Hield? I don't think that they want to move Wiggins. He's really shown himself to be a quality defender for them this year, something that many people thought he could be coming out of the draft. Didn't really live up to that in Minnesota. He's starting to live up to that now in Golden State. I think Golden State's going to move on from Kelly Oubre today, but I think it's going to be more likely for a deal with a team like either the Brooklyn Nets, possibly a 3-team deal there where the Nets bring in another nice player, the Warriors take in Spencer Dinwiddie, or possibly the Magic bring in Kelly Oubre. At this point, I'm not really sure exactly where Oubre is going to land, but I just don't think it'll be in Sacramento. Sid and C wants to know, Zach LaVine has help now. Where do you think the Bulls will go? It's interesting. I think the Bulls are a very competitive team at this point. They have a solid backcourt in Kobe White and Zach LaVine, although not very pass-first oriented, obviously. I think that they got a lot better today, adding in Nikola Vucevic. However, at the same point, I still don't think they're better than the Pacers. They're 10th in the Eastern Conference right now, I believe. I don't think they're better than the Celtics at all. I don't think that they are better than the Atlanta Hawks. The New York Knicks have been playing very well this year. However, I think the Knicks are going to come down a little bit more to earth. At this point, they are sitting at 522-22 on the season. The Miami Heat, also 22-22. They brought in Bielitsa. I think the Heat are better still than the Chicago Bulls. I also think that the Nets, Bucks, and Sixers are for sure locks to be better than the Chicago Bulls. The one team that is above them right now that I think is going to come down to earth a little bit this year is the Charlotte Hornets. They're actually sitting 4th in the Eastern Conference right now. No one would have predicted that before the year. I tried telling people throughout the offseason, Gordon Hayward was a phenomenal signing for them. Charlotte is historically a place that does not land big-time players. And now Gordon Hayward, sure, he's not an MVP caliber player. He might not even be an all-star caliber player anymore, but he was the perfect fit next to LaMelo Ball, who I had assumed would be a Charlotte Hornet at the end of the day. And it was a great situation. They got someone who can really score the ball off the wing. It's also a quality playmaker, fits into what they wanted to do there in Charlotte. And at this point, I think Charlotte is going to come down to earth with LaMelo Ball being injured. But I still don't see the Bulls being a playoff team. I think that they're maybe a 9 seed, possibly with the playing game. Maybe they get in. That's the tough situation, is they have to win 1 or 2 games to get into the playoffs. Maybe they could find themselves sitting at the 8 seed. It's a close race right now, but I'm just not necessarily sold on the Bulls long term. I think it was a good move for them in terms of, hey, we have another building block, but I think that they still have some work to do, if that makes sense for you guys. James Shea, please do not spam in the chat. We are going to get to every single comment. James Shea, he wants to know, what was the Knicks trade? The Knicks pulled off the trade right here, where they sent the New York Knicks acquired Terrence Ferguson. They sent Ignas Brazdeikis and Austin Rivers to the Oklahoma City Thunder. The Thunder, in turn, received Tony Bradley from Philadelphia and 2 second-round picks for George Hill, who also went to the 76ers. That is the move that happened with the New York Knicks. I think that was a pretty solid move for them. They got a young wing player with athleticism. It's kind of a low-risk, buy high on a reward type move, and I think it's an interesting situation, although I don't think it's going to play too much into the future. Like since he said, though, please do not spam James Shea. Appreciate that. It is the best situation for everyone in the stream if you're not spamming. It's just hard to get through all the comments if you are spamming. So at this point, let's just not do that, okay? David Figley says, are the Celtics done? Yes, I think the Celtics are going to be rather quiet the remainder of the day. Once they've used that trade exception, they're not going to be able to bring in anyone else at this point. Their salary cap situation is just a little tough now without that exception. Maybe Tristan Thompson could be a guy they use to match money. However, at this point, I think that he's going to be the only piece the Celtics really bring in is Evan Fournier at this point. I hope that makes sense for you guys. Sid and C says Thaddeus Young is underrated. I think so as well. I think Thaddeus Young is a very solid player. James Shea, I'm going to put you in a timeout here. You're not able to comment now for a little while. Just please do not spam. Once you're out of the timeout, you can come and keep asking questions, but I do not want you spamming in here, and I don't want you being rude to our other awesome viewers that we have. We really appreciate everyone that stops in here, and we don't want anyone to take away from the stream experience for everybody. Manuel Rosales says, Warriors are talking about Danny Green. Yes, they are. And I think Danny Green would be a nice pickup for them. They need someone who can space the floor a little bit more. And that could be where we see a Kelly Oubre flip. Maybe Oubre in a 3-team deal goes somewhere where they're looking to maybe hit the reset button, see if they can pull a little bit more out of what Kelly Oubre. He's having a down year in Golden State. Played very well in Phoenix last year. Just isn't really finding his groove there in Golden State. I think a team like maybe, say, the Cleveland Cavaliers could look to bring in Kelly Oubre. And this would be a 3-team deal where maybe the Cavs send a second-round pick or 2 to another team, and the Warriors would take in Danny Green. The salary matches pretty well there. Danny Green would be a better floor spacer next to Andrew Wiggins for Steph Curry. That's what they've been badly missing this year with Klay Thompson out. They just don't have enough shooting around Curry. Teams have their eyes on Curry at all times. They need to have someone who can space the floor, be a little bit more of a threat from the outside. Michael Salazar says, I feel like I'm the only person who thinks the Heat should go for Oladipo over Lowry right now. And that's an interesting situation. Oladipo, he's a good player, and he's younger. He fits maybe a little bit better into that Heat timeline. I do see what you're saying. But Kyle Lowry is just the better option when it comes to right now for the Heat. The Heat want to win right now. That's the one issue there. However, I think Oladipo would be a great move for them. He's probably a little bit more attainable. He's a cheaper player to trade for at this point. However, he is on an expiring deal. They would have to figure out a long-term extension, which is difficult because the last 2 years have been down years for Oladipo. However, he still wants to get the bag. He's going to want a big-time payday, and you have to kind of guess, hey, is he healthy enough? Is his production going to be at a high enough level to pay him what he wants to get? And that's the situation. Benjamin Goldner says, could the Cavs get Lowry Markkanen right now? And what would the packages be? Also, he doesn't fit with Vucevic. That's a great point here. Let's pull up the NBA trade machine, and we'll actually make the trade here on the spot as we're going in order to take a look at what a trade could look like for Lowry Markkanen, if it is really possible or not at this point. Here, let me pull this up for you guys. Here we go. We've got the trade machine here. Give me 1 second, guys. It is loading here at this point. I think Lauri Markkanen is going to be an interesting name to watch. I agree with you. He does not fit with Vucevic. I think that they're going to have to look to move on from him. He just hasn't really worked out there in Chicago all in all either. It's just been a little bit of a weird situation with how he's played out since his draft pick. Both him and Wendell Carter just haven't really lived up to the hype that they had. We saw them move on from Wendell Carter today, trading him to Orlando. Next, we'll have to see if they are going to figure it out with the with Lauri Markkanen, if he's going to find his way out of Chicago or not. Welcome everybody to the stream. I hope you guys really are enjoying what you're seeing here at Utility Sports. If you are, and if you're new, make sure to hit that subscribe button. We love having you guys in here. We have the best viewers on the planet. I firmly believe that you guys ask phenomenal, great questions about the NBA trade deadline. We've also done other live streams in the past on the NFL. Looking to probably do some on the MLB if that's something you guys are interested to. We'll break down everything you guys need to know when it comes to Major League Baseball, National Basketball Association, and also the NFL. Benjamin Goldner, I'm going to come back to that. There is issues with it loading at this point. We are going to come back to Lauri Markkanen, though. Do not worry about that. Julian Racky wants to know, not on the topic of free agency, but a fantasy basketball, football, utility sports league would be awesome. That would be actually super awesome. That is something maybe we can plan moving forward going into the next year. We could do a fantasy football league. We could get a ton of users, probably up to a 20-man league. If that's something you guys are interested in, let me know right now in the comments. Say, Julian, that's a great idea, because that would be something I would love to participate in. Both me and Austin could be in that league with you guys, and we'll see if you guys could beat us. I think that would be awesome. Probably would, because we got some really great viewers who know a lot about football and the NBA. That would be a lot of fun. Thank you, Julian, for the idea. Maybe even an MLB one. I don't know if you guys watch a lot of MLB, but it would be great if you guys did want to. This Shy says, Lonzo getting traded. Is Lonzo getting traded? Right now I'm 50-50 on it. I think he's a guy that I could see New Orleans moving on from, but also at the same point, they're going to be very picky, and they're going to want the right package. They're not going to move him just to move him. And I think at this point, Lonzo getting moved is a likely situation. However, it's just hard to know exactly if there's going to be a team that's willing to pay what New Orleans is going to want. New Orleans is going to want at least a first-round pick and probably another young player back. And it's hard to see a team really lining up to give that up for Lonzo, but we'll see. Maybe the Clippers make a move centered around Lonzo Ball. It's just tough because he's not even on a massive contract at this point. It's hard to match money for some of these guys and get the requisite value. That's really what we're going to see with John Collins. He's only making $4.1 million this year, John Collins is. So it's hard for a team to work out a deal for John Collins when you can't really match the salary very well there. That is the situation. Orion says he wants Boston to snag Lonzo Ball. That would be awesome. Remember, Lonzo Ball almost could have been a Boston Celtic when they had the first overall pick. They could have looked at them, said they made the right move, traded down, still grabbed Jason Tatum. They got the best player from that draft at pick 3, even after trading down and getting other assets in that deal. Sid and C talking about Wiggins says, I think he's interested in Wiggins. He's inconsistent. Yeah, Wiggins is inconsistent, but that's just what you have to live with sometimes when you're looking at your third or fourth best player there. It's okay if your third or fourth best player is inconsistent. Remember, the Warriors don't even have their second best player right now in Klay Thompson, and they're still right in the thick of the playoff hunt. They're a good team. They just need to make some moves. I think, if anything, Spencer Dinwiddie would be the guy I would look to bring in if I'm Golden State, because you could really try and revitalize some of that bench depth. And wow, over the next 7 years, the Thunder now have 34 draft picks. That is ridiculous. Remember, your roster maxes out at about 15 guys, 17 with two ways. That's a yikes to me. That doesn't make any sense. They're going to end up having to cut or move on from a lot of those. I hope that they're aggressive in the draft, trying to bring in other players and other picks, trying to move themselves up the board. But we'll see what Sam Presti does want to do there. Benjamin Goldner says he would love that fantasy football league. That would be awesome. Julian, great idea. Broad Drew says Knicks better not trade Mitchell Robinson for Lonzo. I don't think Mitchell Robinson would be the guy that they would move on from in that deal. I think Mitchell Robinson is probably looked at as a long-term piece for the New York Knicks. Instead, they'd probably try and use some of those assets that they got from the Dallas Mavericks in the Kristaps Porzingis deal. Remember, they have 2 first-round picks this year, 2 first-round picks in 2023. They can be aggressive with those picks. That would be kind of more along the lines for Lonzo. And if Lonzo Ball does get traded, I think the Knicks would be one of the front-runner teams to land him. Lauren Pearson says, yes, sir, you live. Yes, Lauren, welcome to the stream. Love having you in here. Means a lot having all the support that we get from you guys. It's awesome having you guys in here. Ask us some questions about the NBA trade deadline, and I'll break you down what I could possibly see. Orion wants to know, who do you see the Celtics targeting now that Aaron Gordon is off the market? That's a great question. I think that they're going to look to be aggressive maybe for some role players. I think Dorian Finney-Smith, the guy who I have right here on my wall from the Dallas Mavericks, could be an interesting player for the Boston Celtics. He would come in, be a nice another rotational wing for them. However, it's just hard to see Boston really making a lot of moves. I think that they should also look at the backup point guard position. A Rajon Rondo return to Boston would be very interesting to me. However, I just don't see that extremely likely at this point. I think Boston's going to be pretty patient with what they have now. But you never know, Danny Ainge, sometimes he goes against the grain, doesn't do what people are expecting. A few years back, they didn't have any trades in line. All of a sudden, less than 10 minutes later, they made a move for Isaiah Thomas. That was a big-time move for that franchise. We know what Isaiah Thomas did for the city of Boston for a few years. And Danny Ainge is kind of a wild card. He could make the move that no one's expecting. Lauren Pearson wants to know, imagine if the Lakers traded back for Lonzo Ball. That would be awesome if they got Lonzo Ball back. I love what Lonzo brings to the table. I think he's a great player. I think he's a very underrated player as well. I think people had the expectation he was going to come in and be a superstar that averages 25 points a game. It just never was on the table that that's what he was going to be. Watching him at UCLA, it was clear he's a passer first, someone who's going to give you effort on defense and be a quality all-around player. And that's what he's been in the NBA. People just had too high of expectations for him. You know, someone who averages 15 points and 6 rebounds, that's not disappointing. So 15, 6, and 5, rather. 6 assists, 5 rebounds. That's a very good player in the NBA. Not a lot of guys can do that. Lonzo Ball's been doing that essentially his whole career, you know, closer to the 12 points per game mark, but still very impactful player, a great defender. I think that Lonzo is going to have a lot of interest around the league. David Figley says, OKC has 34 picks over the next 7 years. Are you kidding me? They're in good shape. Yes, they definitely are in good shape. The one concern, though, I have is you can't have 34 players. Now, the nice thing is, Sam Presti, you get a chance to, you know, make a lot of picks, probably hit on a couple and build this thing up. The biggest thing is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is their franchise centerpiece. He is a superstar in the making. I've been saying this since his rookie year with the Los Angeles Clippers before anyone was taking notice to him. I was very high on him coming into the draft as well. I love the length he provides in the guard position. I think he can read the floor well. He also has really grown in terms of getting his own shot off the dribble. That's where I had question marks for him, and he's improved in that area every single season so far, and I think he's going to keep getting better. OKC has to be aggressive, looking to move those picks up, though. I would love to see them trade multiple picks to get the first overall pick this year to land Cade Cunningham if they don't get it via the lottery. I would love for them to be aggressive. We'll see what they end up doing. Sid and C says he's interested in the Fantasy Football League. Awesome. That is something we will get put together then. Make sure you are staying tuned to the channel. We will get you guys in that. It would be super awesome doing that kind of league with you. Benjamin Goldner says, is the trade machine working? I will check back with that right now. Okay, yes, it is up finally. At this point, I think actually, it does not look like it is. Not the one with the cap manager. I can use a different one, though. I can use the SBN trade machine, and then maybe we'll just talk about the draft picks itself. It doesn't have the visual representation of the draft picks, though, so you'll have to bear with me a little bit on that. But we will make it work here, Benjamin, for you. Let me share my screen here yet again. Turn this on, share screen, and let's go to our tab here, NBA Trade Machine. Okay, hopefully you guys can now see this. And you wanted to know about the Cleveland Cavaliers making a move potentially with the Chicago Bulls for Lauri Markkanen. Let's go ahead and throw that in here. Remember, right now at this point, they don't have this updated quite yet. Lauri Markkanen only making a little bit under $7 million, though, at this point. This is one of those tough situations here now for the Chicago Bulls. and the Cleveland Cavaliers is how do you make the money work on a move like this? And I think it's going to be centered around Cedi Osman. I think that's really the player that does make the most sense here in this situation. He's on a nice, very team-friendly deal, something the Bulls are going to value after trading for Nikola Vucevic on a massive contract. They're going to value having another wing in the mix, like Cedi Osman, someone who's very well-rounded, gives you a little bit of everything. Maybe we see Damian Dotson go out, a younger player, and in turn, Hutchinson and Gafford just got traded. I think this is kind of what we see. And here probably the Bulls also get a couple second-round picks. And we're seeing that's what the trade, how the trade would really work. That is kind of what I would see going on for the Cleveland Cavaliers and Chicago Bulls, is something centered around Cedi Osman. Damian Dotson probably goes in as well in that type of move. And in turn, Lauri Markkanen goes to Cleveland. I think the Bulls probably pick up a couple second-round picks, maybe a first-round pick from the Cavs that is a few years down the road that has some protections on it. That's possibly what I could see. But at this point, the Bulls bring in Cedi Osman. I think Cedi Osman would be a nice fit into what they have at this point. Mason says, Clippers for Lonzo. The Clippers are getting everyone, Mason. You know that. Austin's very loud about the Clippers grabbing every single player. The Shy says, what's going on with Lonzo? Lonzo, he's going to have a market in a few different places. The Los Angeles Clippers, like Mason just said, are going to be one of those teams very interested in Lonzo Ball. The New York Knicks going to be interested. The Atlanta Hawks are going to be interested. At this point, however, there is not a ton of traction going on that front, is my thoughts. That's what I'm hearing at this point. Remember, we are just an hour and 18 minutes away, though, from the trade deadline. Things can heat up very quickly, even in the matter of minutes. Right now, there could be nothing for Lonzo Ball, and 10 minutes from now, Lonzo Ball could get traded. Lovely KMG says, Lowry going to be a Laker? Possibly. I think Los Angeles is a real landing spot for Lowry. Whether it's the Lakers or Clippers, we'll see. But I think that does make a lot of sense. Luza, the DC sports fan, says, hi, welcome, Luza. Love having you here in the stream. You broke down the Curtis Samuel news for us about a week ago for the Washington football team. Now you're in here for the NBA stream. Love having you in here. Noah Bruno says, what's going on, man? Not too much, just covering some NBA trade deadline content. Hope you guys are enjoying the stream. If you are new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Also, let's smash that like button. Let's see if we can get up to 15 likes here on the live stream. That would be absolutely awesome if you guys could do that for us. And keep asking some great questions. You guys have been absolutely killing it lately with the questions you've been asking. Let's also try to put together a trade for Kyle Lowry. I think that's a good player to be focusing on at this point. Kyle Lowry, let's see if we can find a way for him to land with the Los Angeles Lakers via the trade machine. Now, we're not going to include a ton of picks in this because it's hard to do that on this site. The other site that I wanted to be using is not working at the moment. Kyle Lowry, $30.5 million. That's the difficult part here. How do the Los Angeles Lakers get there? You have to attach Dennis Schroeder for sure for the money. And then at this point, do you really want to go into trading Harrell and Kentavious Caldwell-Pope in a deal? I don't really think so. This is the difficult part. Though they don't have a big-time trade exception. They don't really have ways to bring in a big-time player like Kyle Lowry, and they're obviously not going to be moving LeBron or Anthony Davis in any deal. If we go about this here, they're right at that $28 million mark with Wesley Matthews involved. If they want to hold on to Harrell, however, maybe they go with Wesley Matthews. Do you really want to be trading Kyle Kuzma? And he's on poison pill, so there's actually no way that they're going to trade him because that would have massive ramifications for their salary cap situation with the poison pill provision. Caruso, maybe Marcus Saul goes back. You see what I'm saying here, though, with the money. This trade will not go through here, obviously. About $470,000 is the mark. Like I was saying, it's about $24.5 million for him to go over. Jared Dudley could go in, but the issue here is, look at this too. This is all to make it work. The Lakers pick up Kyle Lowry. This isn't including the assets here. But you're getting much older than Dennis Schroeder. I don't know if this is really the move that they do want to make at this point. Let me know, what do you guys think about this type of trade? Do you think the Lakers would be interested in bringing in Kyle Lowry for this set of players? They'd have to throw in a couple picks as well for sure yet at this point. There's no way the Raptors would agree to this deal outright. maybe there's a third team involved that takes in guys like Gasol, Wesley Matthews, McKinney. Maybe the Raptors are just interested in Dennis Schroeder. I guess we'd see how that would play out as well. But those would be the players probably having to leave Toronto at this point in order to get a deal done. Luza says he thinks the Sixers will get Kyle Lowry. I actually don't think that anymore. I thought that they were the favorite coming into the day, but then they made a move for George Hill. I think that they have dedicated some of their draft pick assets to second-round picks there at that point guard position because they feel like they cannot land Kyle Lowry. The Raptors have a very high asking point for Kyle Lowry, so it'll be interesting to see if teams do want to match it. Lando Rock says, thanks for the live feed. Glad you're enjoying it, Lando Rock. Hopefully you are subscribed so you don't miss out on any of our content here at Utility Sports. It means a lot having all the support from you guys. We really, really do appreciate everything you guys do for us. When it comes to commenting, you guys leave great comments on the videos, also on the live streams. We really love having you guys be a part of what we do here. Lovely KMG says KCP, Schroeder, and Taylor Horton Tucker. That is the easiest way to match the money for sure. Now the question is, do the Lakers really want to take that big-time downgrade on the wing, moving on from KCP, and then really having to ride Wesley Matthews the rest of the year? I don't see them doing that. I would be surprised if they made that kind of move. Let's go back here, though, and let's adjust this trade. Let's pull out the Los Angeles Lakers here, and in turn, let's put in the Los Angeles Clippers because this is another team very interested in Kyle Lowry, and you'll see how much easier it is for the Clippers to get to the money mark that they have to get to here at this point. They could also throw in other draft pick assets. They could throw in a nice young player if they want. If the Toronto Raptors were interested in one, say a guy like Terrence Mann, possibly Luke Kennard, who has a contract extension already in place that will start next year at about $16 million a year. There are some real assets here that the Raptors could pull in. But just for the money's sake, you see how easily this trade could go through here. Beverly and Morris go out the door. Clippers bring in Kyle Lowry. This is why I thought the Marcus Morris trade signing wasn't that bad, because it's a really useful signing when it comes to matching money on the trade market. Marcus Morris, very exposable and expendable for the Los Angeles Clippers. He could get moved easily in a deal for Kyle Lowry. I think that makes a lot of sense. We've also got some other comments here now to go over. Aaron B has a question about the Arizona Cardinals. He wants to know if signing Malcolm Butler would make some sense. Malcolm Butler, he has had a pretty quiet offseason, hasn't he? Oh, no, he did. Oh, he did sign it. Okay, this just happened recently in the last half hour. I was unaware of that. Thank you, Aaron, for coming into the stream and letting me know about Malcolm Butler going to the Arizona Cardinals. My instant reaction is, good move. I think Malcolm Butler is an underrated cornerback. I think he's very solid still in man-to-man coverage. And I think he's a great piece for the Arizona Cardinals. They needed to address their secondary, especially that cornerback position. Doing so with Malcolm Butler is a very good way to do so. Also, other questions about the NBA trade deadline, if you guys have them, that would be awesome. Let's take another look around the NBA. Let's start over here. And let's take a look at the Dallas Mavericks. What could the Dallas Mavericks look to do here at this point? The nice thing is they have some very easy to move contracts. James Johnson being one of them, Josh Richardson another, Maxi Kleber, a player that many teams around the league are going to have interest in. Willie Cauley-Stein has an attachable contract with a team option. He would be easily movable. And Dorian Finney-Smith's on a very team-friendly deal that a lot of teams would like to grab. That's why I mentioned Boston earlier. So if we went over to the Atlanta Hawks, what could a deal look like centered around John Collins? And here's that $4.1 million salary I was talking about. This is why it's a little difficult to get something done here. Maybe Tony Snell comes in, and let's actually add a third team into the mix here. Let's add the Los Angeles Clippers. Let's say that they aren't able to land Kyle Lowry. Rajon Rondo goes to the Clippers here in this deal. And now, how do we match the money here at this point? The Hawks from Dallas would get to bring in Dorian Finney-Smith for sure. He would be one of the key pieces in this deal for Atlanta. They'd also bring in Maxi Kleber. He goes into Atlanta, and in turn, the Clippers would have to send out some money. This could be Patrick Patterson, probably here to Atlanta. Atlanta is sending out at this point about $23 million. We could also see Reggie Jackson go to Atlanta in a deal for Rajon Rondo. If the Hawks are really looking to move on from Rajon Rondo at this point, I think the Clippers would be a good landing spot. He could return to the city of Los Angeles this time, the other locker room in Staples Center. I think that does make some sense here. We'd also need to send a little bit more money back to the Atlanta Hawks at this point. If they were interested, possibly a guy like Wesley Iwundu could go over to the Hawks as well. And the Clippers at this point are sending out about $5 million. Let's throw in Daniel Aturu as well to make the money work and to give Atlanta another young piece to maybe add at this point. And you see here, they're saying $404,000. I mean, that's literally any player here on the list that we wanted to attach. We could do that. Maybe we pull out Patrick Patterson here. I don't know. It just kind of seems a little tough at this point. Maybe Noah Turu here, and maybe instead they send Nicholas Batum. I know he's been a pretty nice option for them at this point, but Batum comes out the door. He goes over, and we see here the Mavericks add John Collins and Tony Snell. The Hawks would add Maxi Kleber, Dorian Finney-Smith, Wesley Iwundu from Dallas, Patrick Patterson, Reggie Jackson, Nicholas Batum. Really give themselves some depth options. Maxi Kleber, Finney-Smith, Nicholas Batum really being the key players in that deal for the Hawks. Also, probably a couple second-round picks come over from Dallas and the Clippers. The Clippers add Rajon Rondo. Let me know what you guys think about that trade. Do you think that is a solid move for the Atlanta Hawks? Do you think that's a nice move for the Mavericks or the Clippers? Who would win this trade, in your opinion? Also, if you guys have any questions about some of the other players on the trade market, that would be awesome to do that. Let's keep looking here around the league. We don't have a lot of breaking news recently. It's been a little bit quieter. It was really warm earlier on in the day. Last 20 minutes or so have cooled down quite a bit. But if you guys do have some questions, it would be awesome if you could ask those in the chat right now. We will get to those as soon as we possibly can. I keep checking my phone here, trying to make sure I'm staying up to date on all the news around the league, not missing out anything for you guys. Let's pull this out here. Is there any other players or teams you would like to look at a trade possibly for at this point? Is there a single guy that you would prefer to see moved possibly moving forward? Is there a team? Let's actually take a look at the Houston Rockets. I think that they're a team very interesting at this point. They're going to be a team that needs to make a couple moves today. Specifically, Victor Oladipo. Where could we find him going at this point? You guys are able to see this, correct? Yes, you are. Let's add a second team. Now, where could we see Oladipo landing? I think Phoenix would be interesting. However, their money situation is a little tough to pull off a deal there. Toronto could be an interesting team as well if they wanted to bring in Oladipo. Miami still does make some sense. We had a comment about that earlier. It's a little tough, though, with them bringing in Trevor Ariza recently. They've already addressed their wing position a little bit. I don't necessarily know if I see that getting done, especially with them bringing in Bielitsa today as well. Kind of takes away some of their flexibility with who they could make moves for. Indiana does not make any sense, obviously, because they just traded him there, and Karis LeVert is the nice option. That's why I was so critical of the Rockets. They decided they wanted Oladipo over LeVert. LeVert balling out now for Indiana, and the Rockets are left in a situation where they're going to have to move on from the player that they did just acquire. I think Dallas would be an interesting landing spot. Let's put him in here in Dallas and see what we can get done. For Oladipo, the Mavericks would be willing to give up draft pick assets, probably James Johnson, to get the money to work. And then at this point, maybe the Rockets would ask for Dorian Finney-Smith. However, I think the Mavericks would not want to do that. I think they would want to plan on bringing in Oladipo with the hopes of keeping Dorian Finney-Smith. So Willie Cauley-Stein goes out. This is an easy way to match the money, but the Houston Rockets are in a tough situation. There's not a lot of teams that are going to be calling and offering a lot for Victor Oladipo just because of their recent losing streak. They know that the Rockets aren't going to be able to keep Oladipo in free agency. He's going to have a quiet market. He hasn't been playing at a high level the last 2 years, at a level that we're accustomed to seeing Victor Oladipo at. Lauren Pearson says, guys, please subscribe and like. Yes, thank you, Lauren, for putting that in the chat. Please hit that subscribe button. We are super close to 2,500 subscribers. It would be awesome if you guys could hit that subscribe button and be helpful in getting us closer to that 2,500 mark. Lauren Pearson also wants to know, do you think Tyler Hero is going to get traded? No, I don't. I think Tyler Hero is looked at as a key long-term building block for the Miami Heat. I would be absolutely shocked if he got dealt today. You know, players like Kyle Lowry that are a little bit older, sure, they're good players. They're going to help Miami, but Miami's not going to move on from their young stud in Tyler Hero so quickly for a guy who is a little bit older. I just don't really see it happening. Tyler Hero was going to be a piece in a move for Giannis Antetokounmpo. With Giannis off the market, Milwaukee not looking to trade Giannis at all this deadline or anything. I just think Tyler Hero is going to be a Miami Heat long term. How about the Lakers? Should they look into a Malcolm Brogdon trade? Malcolm Brogdon is a great name to watch. Let's actually go back over to the trade machine here, and let's actually look at a Lakers Malcolm Brogdon deal. I think that's a great question there, Lauren, and one that I think is really worth looking at because Indiana, they've been a little bit down this year. They're the 9th seed right now in the East, and they're just a little disappointed. And Brogdon is at a much easier dollar amount for the Lakers to get to than, say, Kyle Lowry. Here, you could look at Schroeder, but maybe they don't even have to give up Schroeder in this deal. Maybe they look at giving up Montrezl Harrell because he's only on a 1+1 deal with the player option. He could be moving on from Los Angeles this offseason. So maybe they move on from Montrezl Harrell. You also attach Wesley Matthews into this. And then at this point, you only need to attach a few more $1 million, about $4 or $5 million yet at this point. We could see Marc Gasol, Alfonso McKinney, and at this point, probably Talen Horton-Tucker for the value here for the Indiana Pacers. And you see here, this is a way that they could bring in a lot of players. Now, I know it says that they would predict the Lakers losing 8 wins here. That's because this trade machine site goes off of PER. So the fact that Montrezl Harrell is very efficient because he plays really close to the rim makes him a more valuable player than Malcolm Brogdon. That's just not necessarily how real basketball works. These are just numbers in an algorithm that are set up to try and give an estimation. However, the Indiana Pacers, I think this is a solid long-term move for them. They bring in Harrell, someone who's going to be a nice piece off the bench for them, and they probably get an asset or two. The other thing we could see here is if instead of Harrell, maybe this trade is focused around Dennis Schroeder, if that's what the Pacers want it to be, and then maybe they get McKinney as well, and we could see the trade go through like this. At this point, you see how the player efficiency rating is really what we see impact the wins here. Schroeder, a less efficient player because he shoots from the outside much more frequently than Montrezl Harrell. That could be something we see. I don't know if Indiana is going to pull the trigger on a Malcolm Brogdon trade. However, I do think he is an interesting name to watch. Nonetheless, this trade deadline, are we getting any breaking news as we're going here? So far at this point, we have not heard anything recently. According to Chris Sheridan, there are 2 teams interested in trading for Hassan Whiteside from the Sacramento Kings. That is an interesting situation because he is a very good rebounder. He's a solid rim protector. Now the question is he going to give you all the energy you need, all the effort you need at all times? No, he's not. He's just not going to. He's shown that multiple times. And he's a guy who really lacks an offensive game, takes some bad shots sometimes for being a center. However, on the right team, he could make a lot of sense. The Dallas Mavericks really need someone who can rebound and protect the rim. I would love acquiring Hassan Whiteside. In fact, I think it was lazy that not a lot of teams were in on Hassan Whiteside this free agency period just because of how easily attainable he was. He signed the minimum with Sacramento. Dallas could have went in and got him on the minimum for 1 year. No question. He would have been much more interested playing in Dallas with Luka Doncic than going to Sacramento, in my opinion. I think that would have been a no-brainer. But at this point, either way, I think Hassan Whiteside is going to be an interesting name to watch. Here are some of the other names to watch: Andre Drummond, Victor Oladipo, Malcolm Brogdon, John Collins, Aaron Gordon. We saw him get moved today already. Spencer Dinwiddie, we haven't heard a lot of rumors about him today. However, he's going to be a name that heats up going into the final hour here. We are 1 hour away from the NBA trade deadline. Also some Clippers, Marcus Morris, Lou Williams could be on their way out. Maxi Kleba, another name to watch. I think Kyle Lowry is a very interesting name to watch as well. He's going to have a real market in the NBA trade deadline at this point. Where is he going to land? I'm not sure yet at this point. Green Bean here asked a great question about the Oklahoma City Thunder. Will Al Horford be on the move? Let's actually add this back to the stream, and let's pull up some Al Horford moves that could make some sense for Oklahoma City. Let's just pull up Oklahoma City in general. Take a look at what they have going on and what they could look to add. They already moved George Hill. They brought in Myers Leonard. He will not join the team, however, so he is, at this point, not going to be a part of their long-term future. Al Horford, the name that you want to move on from. He's making a lot of money. So you're going to need to send him to a team that has another bad contract or two to match that. And it's kind of tough to see that right now. Detroit, I could see them maybe being interested. They just brought in Corey Joseph last night in a trade with DeLon Wright. That was a very low-end move. The Pistons got 2 second-round picks. I thought that was a pretty good move for Detroit all in all. But at this point, the Thunder aren't going to be giving up assets to give up on Al Horford. Horford fits pretty nice next to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. And there's no rush for them to move on from him. It's not like they have a lot of guys that they're going to have to pay. They've got a lot of guys on team-friendly deals that are young players on rookie contracts. They don't need to rush into anything yet at this point. Charlotte would be an interesting team to watch here. Maybe they go into it looking at saying, hey, we're not going to land a free agent this offseason. What if we go into it with Cody Zeller? Give the Thunder some flexibility by saying, hey, we're going to give you a guy on a 1-year expiring deal that you're not going to have to pay. That would be, I think, something very interesting to the Oklahoma City Thunder. But now the issue is, how do the Hornets throw in more money? Because they need to get about to the $22, $23 million mark in order for this deal to go through. Malik Monk, he's been playing well this year. I don't think that they're going to want to give him up. And at this point, you see how tough it is for them to make some other moves because they don't have a lot of guys making more than $10 million. They only have 3. 2 of them are players they're going to want to keep in Gordon Hayward and Terry Rozier. Now, the interesting thing would be maybe if they did attach Terry Rozier and then the Thunder threw a bunch of picks back to the Oklahoma City Thunder in order to bring in Terry Rozier. I think he would be a great piece next to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander in the backcourt. However, I just don't see Oklahoma City making an aggressive move like that at this point. I think that they're going to be very, very patient moving forward. So here, I don't really see the Hornets actually working out. Cody Zeller was a great starting point. However, it's just not going to be likely that the Hornets are able to make a move there in that regard. Let's go take a look at the New York Knicks. They're in the market for a center at this point. But likewise, they have that same issue. They just don't have a lot of guys making more than $10 million. In fact, only one at this point in Julius Randle. They don't have a real way to match the money there. They do have some cap room. So they would only have to send out about $12 million or so. Maybe we look at Alec Burks and Frank Ntilikina. Let's see if this trade does go through. It would. Obviously, here it says that the Knicks are getting nobody. Let me actually adjust this real quick because I need to put Horford back in. Let me try this again. They're saying cut $10 million. That is a little shocking to me because they have the cap room here. Actually, they have to send out another player here. Well, Austin Rivers is already gone, so we'll just put him here because he actually did go to the Oklahoma City Thunder, and there with the cap space, they could bring him in. So Horford to the Knicks could be in the works, but I just don't really see that being a likely move. Nonetheless, I don't know if a team's really going to be lining up to trade for Al Horford. Looking at Oklahoma City, though, they're just going to be patient. If they can't find a trade for Al Horford, it's fine. They've still got some team control on him. Maybe next trade deadline, once there's some less money in the marketplace for the offseason, maybe we see some teams trying to rapidly improve in that regard. Let's see here. We have Monster7649. Welcome to the stream. He says, where does Kyle Lowry go? We've talked about Kyle Lowry a little bit at this point, but let's put together some other trade ideas for the point guard Kyle Lowry out of Toronto. And looking at it here, where are some sensible landing spots? I think Denver would have been an interesting one if they didn't make a move for Aaron Gordon today. Golden State, they're not going to be in the running. Houston, no. Clippers, Lakers, those are the two that jump out here. Memphis, Minnesota are out of it. New Orleans not going to make that move. Oklahoma City, not really interested in making a move like that. Phoenix, not in the running. Portland's not looking to add a point guard. Sacramento, San Antonio, and Utah, those are all no's at this point, in my opinion. Indiana, Detroit, Cleveland, I don't see any of those three teams making that move. Chicago, I still don't see that necessarily. I think Chicago's going to be looking more in the direction of Lonzo Ball or another young point guard like possibly Terry Rozier. At this point, I don't think Kyle Lowry is going to be on their radar necessarily. Charlotte, I don't think so. Brooklyn, Boston, and Atlanta. I just don't really see Kyle Lowry having a big-time market from those places. Let's take a look at a trade with Miami, what that could look like. Kyle Lowry goes out the door to the Miami Heat. Dragic and Iguodala are the pieces that go back to Miami at this point. And then also you're going to have to throw in some draft picks, probably 1 or 2 first-round picks, depending on what Miami's asking for. I know the asking price is high. However, I just don't see that being something that is really likely. Kendrick Nunn probably goes out the door for value, actually, at that point. And maybe, in turn, Miami gets back DeAndre Bembry to kind of fill in their wing position a little bit, add back a defensive-minded wing, someone who can play on that end of the floor. And this could be a deal we're looking at. Obviously, the Raptors here would also get a couple picks, probably a first, 2 seconds maybe, or possibly just 2 firsts, or first and 3 seconds, something along those lines. It would depend on what Miami does value. And we do have a trade here. Toronto is trading guard Matt Thomas to the Utah Jazz for a future second-round pick. Matt Thomas, someone who can space the floor. I think he's a nice low-end acquisition for Utah. It's going to give them a floor spacing option, something that they needed to add into their backcourt. I don't think it's necessarily a big-time move by any means, but I think it is an important move as we go down the stretch of the year. Utah's going to want to keep that number 1 seed, keep that home court advantage. Matt Thomas is a nice piece to help them stay pretty competitive in that regard. However, it's just not a big-time move. Let's also look here at some other moves we could see around the league. One team I do want to focus on a little bit more is the Orlando Magic. They've opened up quite a bit of money today. Let's see if they have this updated or not at this point. I don't think that they do not, obviously, here at this point, but they have made a ton of moves. Let's actually add all the teams in that they have made moves with here so we could get a real good financial picture at what their scenario kind of looks like. We have Chicago, we have the Celtics, and we have the Nuggets. And we can kind of sit here and analyze what they were able to bring in today. So the Magic had sent Vucevic to the Chicago Bulls for Otto Porter, and also they got back Wendell Carter. No other moves yet at this point. Hutchinson is out the door, but we don't have to do that in this trade here. Evan Fournier goes to the Boston Celtics for 2 second-round picks. There's the trade exception like I was talking about. Al-Farouq Aminu went over to Chicago as well. Aaron Gordon goes out the door to the Denver Nuggets. The Nuggets send Gary Harris back to Orlando. They also sent with him R.J. Hampton. I think that's a pretty good move. Look at some of the young players here that Orlando's already brought in. They got 2 second-round picks here, 2 first-round picks from Chicago. They got a first-round pick as well from Denver at this point. These are some good moves here. Boston does have some trade exceptions. Okay, the Raptors are seriously engaged with the Los Angeles Lakers and Miami Heat on a trade to move Kyle Lowry out, according to Shams Charania. That is breaking news here. Very, very likely Kyle Lowry gets moved today. Lakers and Heat sound like they are the 2 front runners. But remember, the Los Angeles Clippers move in silence. They pulled off a massive, massive trade for Paul George that no one knew about until it happened. They signed Kawhi Leonard simultaneously to that move without anyone knowing it was happening until it happened. Just because you're not hearing a lot about the Los Angeles Clippers right now does not mean a move is not going to happen at this point. But looking at this here, this is kind of what the trade ended up being like for the Orlando Magic. They sent out a lot of different players. But they brought in some really nice ones as well. Here, I know this says it fails, but there is the trade exception here at this point, which is exactly how that works. So they're attached to the trade exception. it says it's not working, but it did. It does work. Evan Fournier to the Celtics. That is a done deal. And that's just exactly how it's going. Prickly Horseshoe says trade Aaron Baines for mustard pickles. That is hilarious. Aaron Baines struggled a little bit in Toronto this year. I'm fully aware. I thought he was a nice pickup for them. It just hasn't worked out. I do like Chris Boucher a lot, though. If he could get his stamina right and be able to play for upwards of 28 minutes a game, he would be looked at as a very, very, very good player in the NBA. He just needs to continue working on his stamina, get a little bit stronger as well yet. He's going to be a guy who he's very talented. He just needs to keep growing physically, and he's still pretty young. Dolan here says the Dallas isn't doing anything, and he's sad about it. I know Dallas has been really quiet today. I know Donnie Nelson, the GM for the Dallas Mavericks, is getting a lot of flack from Mavericks Twitter. However, the one thing I'm going to say is we don't need to rush and we don't need to panic if you're a Dallas Mavericks fan. Now, making a move for John Collins is a no-brainer. That's really the only call that they should be making today, in my opinion, is there's two, actually. One with the Sacramento Kings trying to get Buddy Hield for a very cheap, relatively cheap price, or going after John Collins in what is a pretty dry market and offering up as much as you can in terms of Kleba, Dorian Finney-Smith. I think that Dallas needs to be doing all that they can in order to address the power forward position next to Kristaps Porzingis. I think John Collins would be an interesting player. Sid and C says between Luka or Curry, he would go with Curry. That's interesting. For the present, Curry's a really, really good player. But I think Luka is a better all-around player already at this point in terms of what he's able to bring to the table. He is the entire Mavericks offense. Rick Carlisle, who I used to think of as a very good coach, doesn't really do a lot to help Luka Doncic out at this point. It's very much Luka Doncic takes on the defense. He sets up all of the players around him. Maxi Kleba, Dorian Finney-Smith, those two guys can't get their shots off on their own. Josh Richardson, also not a very high-end offensive player. Kristaps Porzingis is really the only other talented offensive starter that the Mavericks have on that end of the floor. And at this point, Luka is just tasked with doing so much, especially when Kristaps Porzingis is out. I actually think Luka is a slightly better player than Steph Curry at this point, but I think it's very close between the two. Curry's an MVP-level player. I think Luka Doncic is as well. I don't think that there's any animosity in saying that you would prefer one of those two guys over the other. They're just both fantastic athletes, fantastic players in the NBA. And I think that that's really kind of the situation there with those two teams. So going back to the Magic here, this was the deal for them. It was Otto Porter Jr., Gary Harris, Wendell Carter Jr., RJ Hampton, 3 first-round picks, 2 second-round picks come in the door for Orlando. They give up Vucevic, Aminu, Evan Fournier, Aaron Gordon. I think that Orlando has won the trade deadline so far. I think that they've had a very, very, very good trade deadline at this point. And I think that they're a very strong team. Let's start over here now and take another look at Kyle Lowry and where he could land. Let's really focus the Los Angeles Lakers in this moment. So, Lowry out the door. Do you guys think it's Schroeder, Caldwell Pope, Talen Horton Tucker, or do you guys think it's Schroeder, Harrell, Wesley Matthews, something along that line? For me, if I'm Toronto, I'm probably wanting Talen Horton Tucker. So they're probably going to ask for Schroeder, who's a little bit younger than Kyle Lowry. They're going to probably ask for Kentavious Caldwell Pope. And then we could see Talen Horton Tucker going here as well. What happened? Oh, okay, there we go. Talen Horton Tucker. This trade is successful. They'd probably have to throw in another pick or two as well, a couple seconds, maybe a low-end first, depending on what Los Angeles is doing. JRX comes in with a donation. He says, another stream. Awesome. Welcome, JRX, to the stream. We love having you in here. I know you're not the biggest NBA fan, but stick around for a while. We love having you in here. You can ask any question, even if you don't know that much about the NBA or if you don't like the NBA as much as the NFL. That is completely cool with me. We can still answer some of your questions here about the NBA trade deadline, some of the stuff going on. And if you do have a football question, we can sprinkle those in as well. We'll try to not answer a ton of those, but I'll answer one or two here as we kind of go. If you do have some questions about football, Malcolm Butler today did sign with the Arizona Cardinals. That was actually broken down to me by Aaron B. during the stream. That was awesome that he came in and let me know. Thank you, JRX, so much for the donation. It means so much having that kind of support from you guys. Honestly, we are so lucky to have you guys as subscribers. What do you guys think about this trade here? Dennis Schroeder, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Talen Horton-Tucker, and maybe a little bit more in terms of draft pick capital out the door. The Los Angeles Lakers take in Kyle Lowry. Do you think that this is a good move for the Raptors, a good move for the Lakers? Who wins this trade in your opinion? Right now, type Lakers if you think the Lakers win this trade, or Raptors if you think the Raptors win this trade. I would love to hear what you guys do ultimately think about this. At this point, Tony Bradley to the Oklahoma City Thunder in that 3-team deal. I actually do really like that. I think he gives them really quality length. He's very, very big. He's a little bit like Rudy Gobert, honestly. And I know it's kind of a casual comparison because they were teammates together in Utah. But he's very big, very lengthy. He's got pretty good hands around the rim, and I think he's a nice building block for the Oklahoma City Thunder. Him and Pokusevski can really coexist together on the offensive end of the floor because of Pokusevski's ability to handle the ball, also shoot the ball from deep. I think those two guys are going to be the long-term options for the Oklahoma City Thunder at that big man position, which leaves way for Al Horford to maybe go out the door at some point. But all in all, that is kind of where we're at. Georgia X says, do you think the Jazz will win the West? Looking at the NBA standings right now, they are the number 1 seed still at this point, and they have a 3-game lead over the Phoenix Suns. With just about 30 games left to go in the season, I think that the Utah Jazz probably do win the West in terms of regular season standings. However, I do not think that they come out of the West as the team representing the Western Conference in the NBA Finals. I would be actually shocked if they did. I think it really comes down to 2 teams in the West, the Los Angeles Lakers and the Los Angeles Clippers. Those are the 2 best teams in the Western Conference still at this point, in my opinion. I know the Phoenix Suns have improved. They're a very good team. I know the Denver Nuggets are playing good basketball. Dallas Mavericks have gotten themselves on track. The Trailblazers, they made a move today to get better with Norman Powell. However, I just think it really comes down to the 2 teams of Los Angeles yet again this season. Clippers, very, very, very good team. Paul George playing at an elite level. Kawhi Leonard playing at an MVP level. They've also got some moves to make possibly today that could shake up the league. Marcus Morris, Patrick Beverley could be on their way out. We'll see if they do make any moves. And the Lakers, I mean, sure, they've hit a little bit of a roadblock recently. LeBron James missed a little bit of time with his ankle injury. Also, Anthony Davis been very injured. They've looked a little human there, the Lakers have. But come playoff time, LeBron James is going to turn it on. Anthony Davis, he's going to be healthy. They're being patient with him. They're going to be a force still. I think it comes down to either the Lakers or the Clippers. And while we're talking about that, who could I see coming out of the East? 76ers been playing great basketball. Joel Embiid was the front runner probably for the MVP until he did get injured recently. I think he's going to fall out of that standing as the number 1 leader for MVP. I think Nikola Jokic is probably going to win the MVP this year, although I don't necessarily love that. I don't think he's necessarily the MVP of the league. I think it's very possible. The Milwaukee Bucks, a very good team, very well-rounded. However, the Brooklyn Nets, they're just too good. It's going to be Nets versus LA in the NBA Finals. Now, is it going to be the LA Lakers or LA Clippers? I'm not sure yet. Today is a big deal for that. Also, the buyout market afterwards. Who are some of the top guys who could be on the buyout market? That is a big-time question. The buyout market this year is probably going to have Andre Drummond, J.J. Redick. Additionally, it's going to have probably LaMarcus Aldridge, possibly DeMar DeRozan. And those are kind of the 4 big names to watch there on the buyout market this year. Andre Drummond, J.J. Redick, LaMarcus Aldridge, DeMar DeRozan. That is a very, very good crop. Perhaps the best buyout market we'll ever see. Kevin Love could also be on this list. However, I don't necessarily know for sure if he will. These are the guys I feel very confident about being on the buyout market. Drummond, one of the best rebounders in the NBA, if not the best rebounder. He is a force down low on the glass. I think he would be a great option for a lot of different teams. I think the Lakers could use him. I think the Clippers could even use him still yet at this point. I think the Raptors will be very aggressive trying to bring him in. possibly, if they don't make a ton of sell moves. Like Gary Trent's going to help them still be competitive there in Toronto. So I think that's a possibility. Still at this point, I think that the Brooklyn Nets are going to really, really target Andre Drummond. I think they're also going to really target JJ Redick. LaMarcus Aldridge, I think he'll end up going to Miami, honestly. And DeMar DeRozan is another great option. Here, Sid and C says, Kyle Lowry, top spot is Heat, according to Sham Sharania. Okay, let's take a look here real quick at what a Kyle Lowry to Miami trade could look like yet again. Kyle Lowry going out the door to Miami. And let's focus here now on Lowry out. And the nice thing is here for Miami, they have some versatility in how they could want to go about doing this. If they don't want to give up Kelly Olynyk and they want to stay kind of set with what they have at the power forward position, they could, because Kelly Olynyk's going to play some of that small ball center for them as well. So perhaps it's going to be Iguodala, Dragic, Kendrick Nunn, I think, at this point, and maybe KZ Okpala to get a little bit more value there for Toronto. And that's kind of what you're seeing here. It says Miami gets worse with this. They actually don't get worse. They for sure need Kyle Lowry, someone who can manipulate the pick and roll. And at this point, I think that makes a lot of sense. Jay Mouse here wants to know, what will the Warriors do? Any updates on the Golden State Warriors? Let's take a look here at the Warriors picture. So far, there haven't been any updates from Shams or Wojnarowski, but according to all the rumors, and I think that this really makes a lot of sense, they're going to look to move on from Kelly Oubre. He's on an expiring deal. He just hasn't fit in quite as well there. I think both sides are looking for a new situation. And one that could make some sense here is maybe Houston gets involved in what could be a 3-team deal. I think that a team like Brooklyn is going to be looking to make a move yet with Spencer Dinwiddie. So these are kind of the 3 teams that I want to focus on here in trying to get a deal done. Maybe we can figure something out here that does make sense for all 3 of these teams. And one I want to start with, Spencer Dinwiddie going to Golden State. I think that makes a lot of sense. Now, Kelly Oubre, let me think about this here for 1 second. Does Kelly Oubre going to the Rockets make some sense? He's 25 years old. He's pretty young. I think that could make some sense in a lot of ways. Let's take a look here at okay, Perk Nowitzki's talking about the Kyle Lowry Toronto Raptors package. There's also going to be like a pick or 2 involved there from the Miami Heat, giving up a couple draft pick assets, possibly a first in the future, maybe 2 firsts. There is some buzz heating up with the Clippers and Rajon Rondo. It sounds like Lowry to the Clippers might be dying a little bit. Maybe they're not confident they can pull that off or don't want to put in the assets that it would take to pull that off. So they are strongly considering Rajon Rondo, that playmaking option. He is going to be the budget playmaker option instead of a guy like Lonzo Ball. And I think Rajon Rondo is actually a great fit there. But Perk Nowitzki, to answer your question there on that package being weak, didn't include the draft picks because I can't show them on this site, but it would include at least a first and probably 2 seconds as well on top of the players that they got in that deal. So back to what J Mouse was saying about the Warriors, possibly Dinwiddie to Golden State in a move that will help them long-term. Kelly Oubre to the Rockets, and maybe, just maybe, could we see a player like Eric Gordon going to Brooklyn? He's under team control for a while. That could be helpful for them. Keeping some of their band together long-term is going to be a key point. They're going to move on from Dinwiddie because they feel like they're not going to be able to keep him at this point. And then they also, maybe here they send out another player like Tyler Johnson to the Rockets, possibly to make the money work a little bit better there. And maybe Nick Claxton goes to the Golden State Warriors to give them a little bit of value, moving on from a younger player like Kelly Oubre. That trade would work. I know it says that these guys, that they're all these teams are losing wins. I mean, no, they're not. Eric Gordon does make the Nets better. Spencer Dinwiddie's just out for the year. The Nets are going to put their chips into the table. They're trying to win a championship right now. Eric Gordon played for Mike D'Antoni in Houston. We know how much D'Antoni liked Eric Gordon as a player on both ends of the floor. And I think the Nets would be interested in bringing him in. Mike D'Antoni, obviously the assistant coach there. He's going to be in the ear of Steve Nash. saying, hey, we should go get this player that I coach. We should go get this guy. He'll fit into our scheme. Eric Gordon is a guy that does fit into that possible picture. What do you guys think of this trade for the Golden State Warriors? The big thing here is Dinwiddie. I know he's out for the year, but your year isn't this year. Your year is next year once Klay Thompson's back. I think Spencer Dinwiddie could fit perfectly into that timeline with the Golden State Warriors. We are just about half an hour away from the NBA trade deadline at this point. I'm going to take one brief pause here at this point to set up something else real quick. And also, I've got to do something real quick off the stream. So I'm going to put this countdown on. We will be back in just a minute. All right, guys, and we are back. Thank you for your patience. I just had to set one thing up real quick for the stream. J Mouse wants to know, at 3 p.m. Eastern time, will you see the Warriors make a move? Yes, they will make a move, and it'll be centered around Kelly Oubre. I'm very confident that Kelly Oubre is going to get traded. Make sure you are staying here in the stream up until 3 p.m. Eastern time. That is just a little bit over half an hour away right now. There's going to be a flurry of deals probably that happen in the next 30 minutes. GMs, executives try and wait things out, make their decisions. And then the other big thing is we'll see who doesn't get traded. And that'll really dictate the buyout market, guys like Andre Drummond, LaMarcus Aldridge, DeMar DeRozan. Let's actually take a look real quick at the San Antonio Spurs. Their team, they have a lot of guys on expiring deals at this point, Rudy Gay being one of them. And they've fallen just recently to 8th. Also, actually, we have more important news at this point than the San Antonio Spurs to talk about here at this point, and that is going to be centered around Atlanta and the Los Angeles Clippers. Sounds like a deal is going to be centered around Lou Williams. Possibly could be a third team involved as well. Rajon Rondo going to the Clippers. Let's add a third team. Who could be interested in Lou Williams at this point? I think Lou Williams is going to have a lot of interest around the NBA. I think a team like Dallas would have some interest in Lou Williams. We'll see if there's anything specific there that Dallas would want to bring in. I don't know if Lou Williams to Dallas makes the most sense. That's just the team that jumps out to me off the top of my head because talks are getting serious between the Clippers and the Atlanta Hawks around Lou Williams. Lou Williams, it is very possible that this could just be the deal we see right here. This trade does work. It is successful. Lou Williams has had a little downtick in his efficiency. The Clippers need to have that point guard who can move the ball around for them, manipulate the pick and roll a little bit better than Lou Williams does, especially as a facilitator, Rajon Rondo is that. But let's adjust this trade. Let's try and find a third team that makes a lot of sense for Lou Williams as a landing spot. Brooklyn makes a lot of sense. Atlanta, man, I don't know if Brooklyn is going to be the spot, though. They could use that bench scorer for sure. That would be Lou. But at the same time, they have so much scoring already. I don't know if it's going to be them. Let's also take a look here. Maybe. Okay, and the trade is finalized. Let's pull this up on stream here. Let's pull this down. Let's go ahead here. And let's go to Adrian Wojnarowski on Twitter. We do have breaking news. This is a absolutely crazy thing. Not what I was expecting. Okay, this is a very surprising deal. Okay, let's share this screen. Let's go to our Twitter here. Share this. You guys should be able to see this now at this point. We are on Wojnarowski's Twitter. And here is the trade. The Hawks are trading Rajon Rondo to the Clippers for Lou Williams. And let's actually go to Shams Charania real quick because Shams has a little bit more of the specifics on this deal. This is very surprising to me. Clippers are finalizing a deal to acquire Rajon Rondo from Atlanta for Lou Williams, 2 second-round picks, and also cash. Lou Williams is on his way out from the Los Angeles Clippers. We've seen the Clippers ultimately decide to move on from that bench unit that they had. Montrezl Harrell they let go over the offseason. Lou Williams they're letting go now, along with 2 second-round picks and cash to Atlanta for Rajon Rondo. Rondo, known to be a excellent playmaker, an excellent passer, and that is a big-time move. The Clippers have acquired Rajon Rondo, and that is a very interesting move. And I think that this is a good move that they needed to make. They needed to add a point guard for sure. Now, am I surprised Lou Williams and 2 second-round picks and cash is what it took to get Rajon Rondo? Yes, a little bit. I think a 1-for-1 made a little bit more sense maybe. Maybe Lou Williams and some cash, about $500,000 to maybe make up the difference in salary. However, that is pretty surprising to me. The one thing is, though, Rondo is under contract for another season yet at this point. Maybe that is the main motivator there for the Los Angeles Clippers, is maybe they felt Lou Williams isn't going to be staying. Maybe we have to make this move now. And maybe Atlanta's not sure if Lou Williams stays. I don't necessarily know if I love this move for Atlanta. I don't know Lou Williams fit there with the Atlanta Hawks. But at this point, it's a very interesting move. Rajon Rondo is going to be a very, very good addition for the Los Angeles Clippers based on what he gives them in the pick and roll. He's going to be a guy who can take the pressure off of both Kawhi Leonard and Paul George when it comes to being the facilitator for this team. They're able to hold on to Patrick Beverley. Maybe another deal is lined up at this point. Lou Williams has played his final game as a Los Angeles Clipper, though. He is now in Atlanta, returning to his home state of Georgia to play for the Hawks. Rajon Rondo to the Clippers. And I think this is a good move for both sides. Atlanta gets Lou Williams, who I'm not necessarily sure about the fit there, but they get 2 second-round picks on top of it for Rondo and some cash. And Rondo to the Clippers, I think, is a great basketball move because of what he can bring in the pick-and-roll game. He gives you a lot in that area. He can get to the rim. This is something I've been saying the Clippers badly, badly need. Someone who can get to the rack and get there often and put the ball into the shooting pocket of those guys on the Clippers. Rajon Rondo is going to be a very, very good acquisition at this point. I think that he's a little underrated by the media. He's a little underrated by fans around the league. Rajon Rondo is a very, very big-time player. I think not a very big-time player like a superstar necessarily, but I think he is one of the more impactful role players in the NBA when it comes to what he gives you. He's one of the best passers still in basketball. He's extremely smart. He's a competitive, quality defender. He does a lot right, and I think he's going to continue to be a very, very good option. Now, with the Los Angeles Clippers, let me know what you think about this trade in the comment section. Give it a grade from 1 to 10 for the Los Angeles Clippers, 10 being the best, 1 being a terrible move. For me, I'd probably give this about a 7 or an 8. I think that it was a little surprising that I was very surprised that there was 2 second-round picks also involved, but Rajon Rondo, I think, is an upgrade for them in terms of what their roster does look like at this point. And I think that's kind of the situation we're seeing them kind of act about. Alex here, welcome to the stream. He says, is Shea a drop for Carter Jr.? I'm not necessarily sure what you're asking there. Alex has 8 for the trade here. That is kind of right around the range I was thinking there. I'm not sure exactly what you're asking. Is Shea a drop for Carter Jr.? If you're talking about Wendell Carter Jr., To be honest, I'm just not exactly sure what your question is here. If you could reword that another way for me, that would be absolutely awesome. But the Clippers have acquired guard Rajon Rondo. For those of you who do not know, my co-creator, Austin, he is a fan of the Los Angeles Clippers, and I just got a text from him saying, I hate that deal for us. He does not like that trade. As a Clippers fan, I understand why he's a little disappointed. It seems like a slight overpay, probably. Like Alex had said, Anton Montez, welcome to the stream. He wants to know what my thoughts on Norman Powell to Portland is. And I think this is a good move for both sides. Norman Powell, a little bit older at this point. Let me pull up his age so I accurately give his age. I don't want to misspeak here. 27 years old. He'll be 28 in May. Whereas Gary Trent Jr., who is the main piece in the deal back for the Toronto Raptors, is only 22 years old, and he just turned 22. I think this is a good move for both sides because Toronto gets a little bit younger, and I've been saying this on the channel now for a few months, that they're going to recenter this franchise around Fred VanVleet and Pascal Siakam. Moving on from Kyle Lowry today will only solidify that. Doing it around, moving on from Norman Powell, they got 5 years younger, and they got a player who I think could ultimately be better going into even next season. I think that is very possible. Gary Trent Jr. could be better, a very, very good defender. Uses his body well, uses his feet well, knows how to cut off straight line drives to the rim, and he's very competitive. Also, a quality shooter. Let's pull up Gary Trent Jr.'s numbers on the year to see how he is playing at this point. I know last year he played very well, and this year, too, he's shooting 39.7% from three. He's a career 40% three-point shooter. I think that's a great move for the Toronto Raptors, what they did. They're bringing in Gary Trent Jr., and I think it's a good move for the Blazers as well. You know, they're kind of getting a little bit better right now with Norman Powell because they want to win with Damian Lillard, CJ McCollum. They're trying to show their young guards, or their star guards, that, hey, we want to win with you guys. We're going to do everything we can to try and do that. Now, does Norman Powell put them over the top in the Western Conference? It just doesn't, but it does make them a little bit better this season. Maybe they win an extra series because of that upgrade. However, I think they will miss Gary Trent. The one thing, Norman Powell can really shoot the ball, though, too. It's not like they're losing shooting. He's shooting, I believe, 45% from three on catch-and-shoot opportunities this year. He's going to excel with the Toronto Raptors. I think it's a good move for both sides. But honestly, I like Toronto's end of it a little bit more because they got younger. I think it fits their timeline, their new timeline, a little bit better moving forward around Boucher, Siakam, Fred VanVleet there in Toronto. J. Mel says, I cannot wait to see what the Warriors do. But as of this hour, Kelly Oubre is still a Warrior. Yes, he is still a Warrior at this moment in time. 22 minutes away from the NBA trade deadline. Don't worry, though. We're going to be going a little bit over, a little bit after, because trades don't necessarily get officially reported until a few minutes after the trade deadline has passed, just because of some of the logistics there on getting these deals done. The executives, the GMs, are more focused on getting everything into the league than they are to Adrian Wojnarowski and Shams Charania. That's why sometimes the news does come in a little bit slower. Remember last year, pretty much after the trade deadline had passed, the news broke on D'Angelo Russell and Andrew Wiggins. That was a big-time trade last year for the Golden State Warriors. We'll see them make a move this year as well. I would be surprised if Kelly Oubre is a Golden State Warrior when we wake up tomorrow. And I think after today, just a little bit after 2 o'clock Central Time, 3 o'clock Eastern Time, we will for sure see that he has been moved to another team. Here are some of the moves that have happened today. The Heat have acquired forward Nemanja Bjelica from the Kings. The Blazers acquired Norman Powell from Toronto. 76ers add George Hill from the Oklahoma City Thunder. The Magic have made multiple moves, acquiring Gary Harris, RJ Hampton, 3 first-round picks, 2 second-round picks, Wendell Carter Jr. and Otto Porter Jr. in trades with the Chicago Bulls, Denver Nuggets, and Boston Celtics. They moved on from Nikola Vucevic, Evan Fournier, and also Aaron Gordon in those trades. Maybe they're going to look to move Terrence Ross yet as well as we get a little bit closer to the trade deadline. He's a guy that could make some sense for either the Lakers if they're not able to pull in a Kyle Lowry type move, or also for the Golden State Warriors in a move for Kelly Oubre. Maybe that is something we could see happen going forward. Let's go back on Twitter here and see if we are getting any thoughts here. This has been a funny trend going around. I'm no longer an NBA trade deadline fan. That is very funny. Quick jersey swap. That's him in a Hawks jersey. 11 trades have happened already today. 20 minutes left on the counter. And the big thing is it's been quiet on the Houston Rocket front. We have not heard anything about Victor Oladipo yet at this point. Are the Rockets going to be able to find a trade partner for Victor Oladipo? I don't know yet at this point. If not, it's going to be a failure of a season for the Houston Rockets. They moved on from their best player in franchise history, and James Harden, in my opinion. I know that they had Hakeem Olajuwon, but I still think James Harden's their best player in franchise history in terms of what he was able to do with the basketball. I just don't think they found the right pieces around him, and he played in a very stacked era when he had to go against the Warriors, who were one of the best teams of all time. Hakeem Olajuwon, people are going to say, well, he won rings. If Jordan didn't retire from that stacked Bulls team, would he have? I don't know for sure. But nonetheless, they moved on from James Harden. They got a ton of assets for him, sure, but they made a terrible decision taking in Oladipo rather than Karis LeVert in that deal. I don't know why they opened Indiana up to that option. That made no sense to me at the time. Still makes no sense in hindsight. At this point as well, they didn't even get any of the young players there from Brooklyn. They didn't get Jarrett Allen, who looks like a very young, nice center for the Cleveland Cavaliers now at this point. It just a lot of head scratchers. They moved PJ Tucker, but they gave up one of their picks this year in that deal to get future picks. I just don't necessarily know if I really love what they have done at this point. I think it's a very, very tough situation for the Houston Rockets. Let me know in the comments. Do you think the Houston Rockets are in a good position with what they have for draft picks, or do you think that they have mismanaged some of their moves this season so far? I'm kind of in the point where I think, if they get lucky in the lottery and do land the first or second overall pick, maybe get to add Cade Cunningham or Jonathan Kuminga, they could be in an interesting situation. However, remember, if that pick falls out of the top 4 in the lottery, if they get a little unlucky in the lottery, their pick goes to Oklahoma City, which would really leave Houston in a terrible situation because they wouldn't even have a draft pick to improve their team going into next year. You could look at really 2 terrible years for the Houston Rockets for the price of one where they don't have an asset to improve it if they get a little unlucky in the lottery. My Mavericks have gotten unlucky in the lottery multiple times, including the year we even got Luka Doncic. We were supposed to have the 3rd overall pick. We fell all the way down to 5. Then we had to ultimately trade up. Cost us a first-round pick the following year. Was well worth it. But the Rockets, they could be in a world of hurt if their pick does convey to Oklahoma City. It's going to be a tough situation for Houston there. The buyout market, my guess at this point is going to include Andre Drummond, JJ Redick, LaMarcus Aldridge, DeMar DeRozan. I'd love to know if you guys think there's anyone I'm missing there at this point. I think the Warriors should be a team looking at JJ Redick and DeMar DeRozan. I think those 2 players would fit in really well there. DeRozan's a really good player. I think that a lot of people are a little low on DeMar DeRozan and what he really brings to an NBA team. He's really, really grown as a playmaker the last 2 or 3 years since he got to San Antonio. His ability to move the ball. He's creative as a passer. He's smart as a passer. He puts the ball in the right spot, and he's a great attacker of the rim. He can get to the rim, finish through contact, avoid contact, and he is deadly in the mid-range area still. I think that DeMar DeRozan could be a very, very good pickup for a variety of teams. And I think if he came in as the number 2 option for a team in terms of what his scoring output looks like, that team's going to be really, really, really dangerous. If DeMar DeRozan hits the buyout market, teams should be aggressive trying to bring him in. And I think it would be a great situation for a team if DeMar DeRozan does hit the buyout market. However, I don't necessarily know for sure if he will. We haven't heard anything about San Antonio all day. I'm sure that they've been shopping LaMarcus Aldridge the last week or so. I don't think that there's going to be any real leverage there. I think LaMarcus Aldridge is for sure going to get bought out. DeMar DeRozan, however, more than likely will be a guy who's a little bit tougher to predict there because he's a better player than Aldridge. He's more important to what the Spurs are doing right now, and they're still the 8th seed. He could possibly play out his final year with the San Antonio Spurs. Let's pull up the San Antonio Spurs real quick at this point. The Spurs here, let's see how many players that they have under contract for next season. So DeRozan, Aldridge, Rudy Gay, all expiring contracts. Trey Lyles is an expiring contract. That's 4 players already. They have a whole bunch of team options on guys. Keita Bates-Diop is also expiring. Quindary Witherspoon is expiring. They have a lot of guys who are very likely on their way out as we move closer to the trade deadline. We are less than 15 minutes out, guys. Hit that like button if you haven't already. Let's try and get the stream up to over 20 likes. I'm not sure what it's at right now. If someone could let me know how many likes we have on the stream, that would be absolutely awesome. And let's all just smash that like button real quick and keep asking questions about your guys' thoughts on the trade deadline. RP, welcome to the stream. Hopefully you are enjoying it so far. We do love having you in here. It means a lot having the support from you guys. Please ask questions about the NBA trade deadline. It means a lot. Okay, Nico Miatello says, we do have 20 likes on the stream. Let's try and get it to 25 likes at this point. That would be absolutely awesome then. Thank you, Nico, for bringing that to me. I cannot see how many likes it has, so it's awesome that it was right around where it was. Gold-Blooded says this. I don't know what that says, but nonetheless, welcome to the stream, Gold-Blooded. Hopefully you are enjoying it so far. Trade deadline, what do you guys think about it? J Mel says the Warriors will be active. Watch out. Yes, they will be. They're going to look to make a move that makes sense for them. Kelly Oubre is going to find his way out more than likely. RP wants to know DeMar DeRozan most likely destination, and that is a great question here. Nico Miatello also asked about any Oladipo destinations you like, and let's go ahead and play with those two things right now. I'm going to share my screen here with you guys yet again. And this time we're going to look at the trade machine and see if we can find a DeMar DeRozan landing spot at this point. Right now, there's not a lot of teams that are probably vying for DeMar DeRozan. He's $27 million. It's tough to bring in a player of that caliber that's making that much money. One team that does make some sense, though, the New York Knicks, they have some cap space to even work with. If they wanted to, they could pull the trigger on a deal for DeMar DeRozan, really commit to trying to make the playoffs this year. I think a team like possibly, I don't know, Boston would have made some sense with their trade exception. They did not opt to go that way, though. They went with Evan Fournier instead. One that would be really interesting to me would be Golden State. I don't necessarily know, though, if I see anything actually materializing there. But it would be one of the ones that is more interesting to me. Maybe if the Spurs would give up DeRozan to match money on Wiggins and then also a draft pick going to the Golden State Warriors for Wiggins, that would make some sense to me as well. Maybe the Spurs feel like, hey, we can really, unleash what Wiggins has to offer. Andrew Wiggins is a good player. A lot of people don't think he is. I know he has some inconsistencies. He's not the best shooter from 3. But this year, he's averaging 18 points a game, shooting 47% from the field. He's also shooting about 38% from 3 this year, which would be, I'm pretty sure, a career high for him. He's averaging about a steal a game, about a block per game. He's a very good player. Nico Miatello asking about Oladipo. He asked if the Knicks are a destination for Oladipo. And I think, yes, they would be at the end of the day. Let's go ahead and pull up the New York Knicks into a deal for possibly Victor Oladipo. When it comes to DeRozan, just to finish up what we were saying about him, I just think it's a little bit tougher to see a real route for him to get moved on trade deadline. I'm just checking my phone here real quick to see if there's anything going on with Kyle Lowry at this point. 12 minutes left on the trade deadline. Actually, a little bit under that now. 10 minutes left. Will Kyle Lowry get moved in the fourth quarter of the trade deadline here? We will see. Let's go look at the Knicks here on a Oladipo to the next landing spot. And this could make some sense here. Ntilikina, Alec Burks maybe go out the door. The nice thing is if you're in New York, you don't even have to match money. Maybe they throw in one of those Mavericks picks, possibly a 2023 first-round pick from Dallas. That possibly goes out the door here. They already moved on from Austin Rivers today and Iggy Brasdeikis. This trade would work. Oladipo definitely does make the Rockets quite a bit better. I don't know why the trade machine here is suggesting that they get worse. They don't. Oladipo would make them a much better team. Nico Miatello, as a Rockets fan, says he hopes someone overvalues him. Yeah, it's a tough situation because he's on an expiring deal, hasn't played super great the last 2 years, especially to what we're accustomed to seeing from Victor Oladipo. After coming back from his injury, he's just been not necessarily the same player. I'm very surprised the Rockets decided to opt for him over Caris LeVert because I don't think you're going to get that kind of return for him at this point. Oladipo, not going to have that big of a trade market. I think the Pacers took advantage of the Rockets in that deal. Getting Caris LeVert was the no-brainer move. I had said that the day the trade happened. The moment the trade happened, I was shocked that Houston opted for Oladipo over Caris LeVert, and now they're at a point where they have to move Oladipo. Aren't even going to get a LeVert-level player back, and it's just a tough situation. Another team I could see maybe making a move for the Rockets, Victor Oladipo, is actually another in-state team, which is a rare situation. You usually don't see that going on too much, but I think the Dallas Mavericks could be in play. Oladipo could make some sense. They could use his bird rights to keep him long-term this offseason. Maybe we see something like James Johnson, possibly Josh Green, who we took in the first round this year, being the center point of that trade. Mavericks, they're suggesting they don't get any better with this deal, and they're suggesting the Rockets get way worse. But the nice thing is, here, if you're the Rockets, you get a young player who's a former first-round pick, maybe to build around. Maybe you get a couple of second-round picks in as well. A Mavs pick is overvaluing him, in my opinion. I agree with you, Nico Miatello. If the Knicks did give up one of those Mavs picks, I do think it is an overvalue. I think any first-round pick at this point for Oladipo is an overvalue. But the Knicks do have some assets that they're willing to maybe make that type of move to ensure that they get the player they want if they did want Victor Oladipo. But at this point, we are about 7 minutes away from the NBA trade deadline. Haven't heard a lot about Victor Oladipo. Doesn't mean something isn't going to happen, though. Thank you, Nico Miatello, for your comments on the situation with the Houston Rockets and Victor Oladipo. Nico, I'd love to hear what you think about your franchise's outlook moving forward, what you think about Kevin Porter Jr. I love Christian Wood. I was very high on him even when he was in Detroit. I had actually picked him to be a contender for most improved player of the year. Him and Boucher were my two picks. You could go check that out on the channel. That was a few months ago, right before the start of the season. Those were the two guys I had named in that video. It seems like I was pretty close to the right answers there. J Mel says, I would like Victor Oladipo to the Warriors. They would not have to give up much. That is true. Let's take a look here quick. Those are two of the teams we've had a lot of dialogue about today, the Houston Rockets and also the Golden State Warriors. Golden State, what could they give up? Kelly Oubre to Houston makes some sense. Oladipo back. Okay, Terrence Davis got traded from the Toronto Raptors to the Sacramento Kings for a future second-round pick. Looks like Masai Ujiri is taking Toronto down a little bit of a rebuild here. Pick up a second-round pick for Terrence Davis. They're getting younger. They're in Toronto, moving some of their assets out for draft picks. An interesting situation. They're trying to build up some capital there. Masai Ujiri is going to get this thing right on track for the Toronto Raptors. I'm very confident in Nick Nurse. I think he's a great head coach. I'm confident in Masai Ujiri. I think he's a great executive. And I think the Toronto Raptors are going to handle things in the best possible way. But back here real quick to what we were looking at here with the Oladipo to the Warriors situation. All it would take really is probably Wanamaker, Kelly Oubre, and maybe one of these young guys, possibly a Marquise Chris, possibly Kent Bazemore. I know the Rockets had wanted Bazemore a while ago, but Bazemore I think fits better into what they have now. I would be surprised if they let Toscano Anderson, Smilejic, or Eric Pascal go. So let's just throw Marquise Chris in here. This would be the deal. Probably throw in a second-round pick or so. Oladipo to Golden State. I know that it keeps saying that he's going to make a lot of these teams worse. He's not actually going to make them worse. Is he going to make them a lot better? I don't necessarily think so. The Warriors here, the one issue is you're going to have to find a contract for Victor Oladipo. I don't necessarily know what that's going to look like. He's going to be one of the most volatile players in the coming months. He probably wants a big-time contract. I don't think he's worth a big-time contract anymore, but a team might be willing to give it to him, possibly even a team like Detroit Charlotte, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what his market looks like this offseason. But at this point, I'm not sure. Nico Miatello says he's very high on Kevin Porter Jr. and Christian Wood. They need to fall off and get a few more high picks. I think LeVert would have made them too good this year, making them lose their pick this year. That's interesting. Even with the missed time, you still think that I'm interested to see. I think LeVert would have been a better long-term answer. I don't necessarily know if he makes them too good. They've just been brutal. Now, the thing is, if Christian Wood doesn't get hurt, maybe you're right about that, because once Christian Wood got hurt, their season really got derailed at that point. They do need to lose a little bit more. Making some moves does open the door for them to continue losing, which is not necessarily the best place to be. You never actually want to lose, but sometimes it is best to lose just because of draft pick complications, all that stuff. I think Kevin Porter Jr. is a great player. I actually made a video on the channel about the Houston Rockets, what I thought they should do. And I made this about 3 weeks ago or so. I talked about trading PJ Tucker. I thought the Miami Heat were going to be the destination for him. Milwaukee ended up jumping in, getting him. But nonetheless, that was a good move. I think that they have to find a way to move Eric Gordon somewhere, possibly the New York Knicks. That does make some sense to me as well at this point. That could be a landing spot for Eric Gordon. However, we've been not hearing a lot. All right, and the Mavericks are going to be making a move here. It sounds like the Pelicans are close on a deal with the Dallas Mavericks for J.J. Redick. J.J. Redick going to be on his way out of New Orleans. Let's go ahead and start over here. Let's try and guess real quick what this is going to look like. Let's put the Pelicans in here. At this point, the Mavericks needed shooting badly. No Lonzo Ball trade, according to Adrian Wojnarowski. That's what I was saying. I thought it was 50-50. Sounds like the Pelicans did not get blown away with an offer. They're going to be holding on to Lonzo Ball. But J.J. Redick is out the door. My guess is it's going to have James Johnson and maybe a second-round pick or something. I'd be surprised if we were willing to give up Dorian Finney-Smith or Maxi Kleber in a deal for J.J. Redick. Not even surprised. I would be absolutely shocked if my favorite team, the Dallas Mavericks, made any type of move that was more than giving up, James Johnson in a type of deal like this. He just hasn't really been that productive for us. He came in, with the idea that he's going to be, an enforcer. I mean, this isn't hockey. This is basketball. You don't really have space to have an enforcer on the court. You need to have talented players. We've badly missed the shooting of Seth Curry once we traded him to Philadelphia. Bringing in J.J. Redick does make a lot of sense. He's going to be a nice option off of Luka Doncic. Now, am I in love with this move? No, not necessarily, but the deal is close. This isn't necessarily what the deal is either yet at this point. My guess is it's going to be something like James Johnson, maybe a second-round pick. We are going to see here. We're going to keep our eyes on that. This is why you guys need to be here. We are technically 2 minutes away from the NBA trade deadline. Stream just about going on for 2 hours now at this point. Very, very big move here. J.J. Redick is going to end up being a Dallas Maverick at this point. Let's see here. J Mouse says you could give up a first-round pick next year or 2022, and you can give up a second-round pick next year or 2022 for the Warriors to get Victor Oladipo. Yeah, I just don't necessarily think the Warriors are going to be lining up to give up one of those firsts. Probably going to be a couple seconds in a deal for Victor Oladipo would be my guess. However, it's been very quiet on the Houston front about Oladipo. I don't know if they're trying to really work the phone and just not getting a lot of ground traction with any teams. I'm not really sure, but it does sound like J.J. Redick to the Mavericks is going to happen. Victor Oladipo, the other teams in Texas, San Antonio, Houston, have been very quiet today. Not a lot of rumors going around. Haven't heard anything from Wojnarowski or Shams Charania yet at this point. And it also sounds like Andre Drummond is going to be on the buyout market like I had thought. He is probably going to get bought out from the Cavs in the next coming days after them not being really willing to find a trade at this point. It is now 3 o'clock Eastern time. And at this point, it's a big time part of the year because we have the trade deadline basically done here. We might have a flurry of deals come in yet, like I said, after the timeline, because deals are being finalized. They're being sent to the league office before Wojnarowski and Shrani are finding out about them. That's why they come in after the trade deadline, because they're not actually after it. Deals have been agreed to. They have just not been reported on quite yet. That is why you guys have to be staying here on the news at this point. I think that there is a lot going on. Lonzo Ball staying in New Orleans. He was a big name to watch. Also, with the Mavs making a move for JJ Redick, it does not sound like John Collins is going to be on the move. My thought is John Collins staying in Atlanta at this point. And that is a big time deal. Also, make sure to check out our socials in the description, in the bio here of the video. Go follow us on Instagram. Go follow us on Twitter. We also have some utility sports merchandise if that's anything you guys are interested in. Really nice black hoodies, shirts, very nice material on those. And it's I don't know, this trade deadline has been a little up and down. There's a lot of big time trades earlier in the day. It's been a little quiet. At this point, I'm not necessarily sure what I'm seeing at this point. Let me know, what do you guys think about this trade deadline? I'm a little scatterbrained right now. I'm trying to wrap my mind around JJ Redick, what could possibly be happening. Okay, multi-team deal here actually for JJ Redick. This is coming from Shams Charania. Let me pull this up on the stream so you guys can see it. Let me remove this. And let me share my screen here. I need to share the Twitter. And Chrome tab, here we go. You guys should be able to see this now. This is a multi-team deal. Pelicans holding on to Lonzo Ball. That is just getting reported like I had said. Here it is. This is from Shams Charania. Oh, he must have deleted his tweets. But here he's saying Dallas has acquired New Orleans' JJ Redick. Mavericks also acquired Trey Lyles from the Spurs in this multi-team deal. I'll be interested to see what we're sending out in order to bring in Trey Lyles. I'm a little unsure about bringing in Trey Lyles. I don't necessarily understand why that was something on Donnie Nelson's radar. I'm not really understanding what he's going to bring to us that we don't have at this point already. I just don't think he really makes us a lot better. But it'll be interesting to see what we do give up in that trade. Make sure you guys hit that like button if you haven't already. Also, make sure you're subscribed to Utility Sports. We are super, super close to 2,500 subscribers. If you guys could hit that subscribe button if you aren't already, that would do us such a big favor. You guys have no idea how much you mean to us. And let's see here. We're not getting any news yet on the Dallas Mavericks. For those of you who weren't here earlier, Rajon Rondo is now a member of the Los Angeles Clippers in a trade for Lou Williams. Lou Willville goes back to Atlanta. He is now a member of the Atlanta Hawks. Cavs buying out Drummond. That is going to be worked on pretty much starting now at this point with what we have seen. Big time situation. Nico Miatello says, I wonder if DeRozan could be heading to the Pels here. Good point. However, I'd be surprised if they're able to work out the money on that deal. Just looking at the situation here, the Pelicans, let's also add the Spurs into this 3-team deal I was working on. At this point, Trey Lyles only makes $5.5 million. For the Pelicans to match the money here, they'd have to send Bledsoe back over to San Antonio. They'd also have to add in guys like Nico Melli, Josh Hart. I just don't necessarily see that being the case, but DeRozan to the Pelicans would make some sense to give them another playmaker and someone who can score the ball. However, and Stan Van Gundy doesn't believe in spacing the floor, so bringing in a mid-range shooter and a slasher next to Brandon Ingram and Zion Williamson does make a lot of sense, I guess, as well for what he wants to do. However, it doesn't make a lot of sense in terms of what the actual NBA situation should look like for a team. Here, I'm still waiting to see what the Mavericks have given up. Here, my guess is it's going to be probably centered around James Johnson going out the door with a second-round pick or two, and possibly additionally Willie Cauley-Stein maybe to the San Antonio Spurs for Trey Lyles. We will see here. We have not gotten that news quite yet, but we'll see if we can figure out exactly what is going on as we continue looking at this point, it'll be interesting to kind of see what we have kind of breaking down while we're still looking here. Thank you guys all so much for tuning into the stream. I do really appreciate you guys spending the time here with me today, talking some NBA basketball, talking some possible landing spots. Nothing yet on Kelly Oubre, J Mouse, or the Golden State Warriors. We'll see if anything did get done there. I would be surprised if nothing did get done, but I have not heard anything. It is 2:05 now. Hornets are acquiring Golden State's Brad Wanamaker. So the Hornets looking for a rotational point guard to replace LaMelo Ball with his injury. Probably a very low-end deal there. I'd be surprised if anything really, really important is going down in that regard. There, we don't have the deal yet for the Mavericks. JJ Redick, we don't know what they're giving up. We just know that they're taking in JJ Redick and Trey Lyles yet at this point. An interesting combination, not one I would have expected coming into the day. JJ Redick does make a lot of sense for sure. Just now, okay, now they're saying the Spurs must have fallen out of the deal because Shams Charania is updating his news that he's breaking here. And he's saying no San Antonio now in the deal. He is saying just a 1-for-1. Let's see here what we can be looking at. This is an interesting deadline at this point. Nikola Vucevic, definitely the biggest name to get traded. No news on Kyle Lowry yet either. Here is the news from Shams Charania. Dallas has acquired JJ Redick from the New Orleans Pelicans. And now it's saying this tweet was deleted by the tweet author as well. So I can't even really pull this up for you guys yet at this point. He did delete that tweet as well. It looks like Shams Charania is having a little bit of difficulty with the news. Maybe there's a little bit of a ring up in the trade discussion. We had this happen a few years back with Dallas between the Miami Heat. They thought they were getting Derrick Jones Jr. and Goran Dragic. Instead, Miami thought they were sending Myers Leonard in that trade. There's just a little bit of Okay, sorry guys. I just have one little issue there with my stream. I am back though. Hopefully you guys are still able to view the stream here at this point. Let's see exactly what is going on now. At this point, still not a ton. Sorry for the brief lapse in connection there. Just had an issue with the stream for just 1 second. Let me pull back up my share screen so you guys can see everything that I am looking at on the Twitter sphere. A lot of confusion going on right now about the Dallas Mavericks is what it sounds like. There's not a lot of clarity at this point what the deal is with Dallas and JJ Redick. There's a lot of rumors that Redick is a Maverick, but we don't know what the terms of that deal is quite yet at this point. There were thoughts that the Spurs were involved. Now it doesn't seem like the Spurs are involved at all. You see Shams has deleted his tweets about that, breaking the news. He does not feel confident in what he has at this point. And Victor Oladipo has been traded according to Adrian Wojnarowski. Victor Oladipo has been dealt. Let's pull up the Woj bomb at this point. This is a big-time one here. Houston is trading Victor Oladipo to the Miami Heat. And like we had someone in here say earlier, he didn't think Kyle Lowry was the right move for the Miami Heat. He thought Victor Oladipo was. He ended up being right. Kyle Lowry is not going to be a Miami Heat. Victor Oladipo, however, has been traded to the Miami Heat. Stay tuned here. We are going to get you the details on all of these moves as we get them. We want to make sure you guys are getting all the up-to-date information that you need at this point. This is according to a source that told ESPN and Adrian Wojnarowski. This is a very, very interesting news. Like I said, some of these deals are going to get reported post-deadline. Here is one of them, Oladipo to Miami, as we have a massive, massive move going down. We'll see what Houston landed. We'll see if they get a first-round pick or not. That would be a massive deal. Nico Miatello says, "Oh snap, give me Tyler Hero." Yeah, you wish. If you guys get Tyler Hero, I'm going to lose my mind. That would be absolutely incredible. I think maybe Kendrick Nunn is the sweetener in this deal, possibly. We'll kind of see what you guys are landing in a trade with the Miami Heat. I expect Andre Iguodala to possibly be part of this deal. When it comes to matching money, I'm not exactly sure yet, though. We will get you the news on what the packages all look like as they come in. Here, Wojnarowski and Shams Charania. Shams still has not put out anything more on the Dallas Mavericks. As a Mavs fan myself, I am waiting to try and find out what is going on with that. But wow, Victor Oladipo is a member of the Miami Heat. That is extremely shocking. That came out of nowhere. Raptors are keeping Kyle Lowry, according to Adrian Wojnarowski. Let's go back to Woj here. Now, according to Adrian Wojnarowski, the Raptors did not find a deal for Kyle Lowry. Let's update this here and make sure we're bringing you the up-to-date information as we are getting it. At this point, Wojnarowski says the Raptors are holding on to Kyle Lowry. Here are the two big recent moves of the day. Raptors hold Kyle Lowry. Victor Oladipo goes to the Miami Heat. Big time deals there. Raptors must not have found anyone willing to give them the package they wanted. The Clippers kind of pulled themselves out of the race when they went and got Rajon Rondo. The Lakers could not figure out a deal. Probably didn't want to give up Kentavious Caldwell-Pope like I was talking about. Raptors didn't want to send out their best franchise player in Kyle Lowry for no reason. They were patient, held on to him. At this point, the Raptors, Kyle Lowry is staying put. Broadway Kobe wants to know, what are the Lakers doing? That is basically nothing. At this point, they've been very quiet today. Does not sound like they have a move made at this point. We will see if we get any breaking news on any of the trades that are going down. And at this point, Oladipo, the two-time All-Star, is a member of the Miami Heat. We will see where he lands, what he lands back for Houston, rather. If they get a good package, it'll be surprising to me. I don't think that they should be getting too much. Let's actually try and guess here real quick what this could be looking like. Let's start over. Spurs have no trade for LaMarcus Aldridge. That is what I had assumed initially, that they would not have a trade in line for LaMarcus Aldridge. Looking at Miami here and a trade with the Houston Rockets, Victor Oladipo out the door. Does that mean possibly Goran Dragic? I would be surprised. I think it's going to be Iguodala and probably Kendrick Nunn for the Miami Heat going out. And I think this is a pretty good move for the Rockets, if that is what it is. My prediction at this point, and this is just purely a prediction, I do not have any information on this for sure, but my guess is it's going to be around the lines of Andre Iguodala and Kendrick Nunn for Victor Oladipo. Nico Miatello, I'd love to know what you would think about that package if it is Kendrick Nunn and Andre Iguodala for Victor Oladipo, Iguodala being the money matching aspect of the trade. What would your thoughts be on that? That is not official. That is just conjecture on my part, but I'd love to know what you think about that if that was the trade. In fact, it does sound like the buyout market is going to be centered around Andre Drummond and also LaMarcus Aldridge. JJ Redick does not sound like he's going to be a part of that buyout market. DeMar DeRozan still a possibility at this point. Nico Miatello says he'd love it. None or Precious. Yeah, Precious Achiuwa would be definitely an interesting grab. He's a versatile athletic big. For those of you who haven't gotten to see Precious Achiuwa yet, played at Memphis last year in college. And here it is. Okay, it is a much lower thing. It is. Okay, here we go. We actually, Michael Salazar, here is what the Heat did trade for Victor Oladipo. This is according to Shams Charania. Let's pull this up right now. He has multiple tweets in the last hour, obviously breaking all the news here for us at Utility Sports. Here it is. Houston trades Victor Oladipo to the Miami Heat for Avery Bradley, Kelly Olynyk, and a draft pick swap. At this point, that is what the move looks like. I'm interested to see what that draft swap is. That very, very interesting that Houston would want a draft swap. Doesn't really seem like a lot of upside there when you're in the shoes that Houston is. And this is why I was so critical of them when they traded for Oladipo in the first place. These two guys they brought in, Bradley and Olynyk, are non-factors for them long-term. Neither of these guys are great options. Nico Miatello says, depends on the swap, but that kind of sucks. I agree. If the swap is maybe like 2027, somewhere where it's way down the road, that could be valuable because maybe Houston, figures some stuff out, and then maybe Miami runs into some issues. Jimmy Butler gets older. Maybe Bam Adebayo doesn't stick around, doesn't work out. But at this point, it doesn't seem like a great situation. Sid and C sticking around in the stream. It's awesome having you in here, Sid. And he says Heat won that trade. Jimmy, Oladipo, and Bam. Yeah, I definitely think they did win that trade just looking at what they got. Now they're going to have to figure out a deal with Victor Oladipo rather quickly. He's going to be a free agent this offseason. But nonetheless, he is going to be a nice piece for the Miami Heat short term. Nico Miatello says, I'd be okay with 2025 or 2026. Yeah, I think that would be okay too. 2027 would definitely be the preferred year just because of how far out into the future it is. It gives Houston a lot of time to figure out their rebuild and maybe get back on the right track. The further out, the better for Houston in this scenario. We will see. I know it's not going to be a soon pick because the Heat don't even have the rights to their pick this year or in 2023. My guess is it's going to be a 2026 or 2027, to be completely honest with you. We will get the details on that as soon as we can. Sid and C says, do you collect sports cards? I don't actively collect sports cards anymore, but I do have a massive collection, especially of baseball cards. I also have quite a few NFL ones and a bunch of NBA ones, including some Shaquille O'Neal's and some of the fun ones like that back from the early to mid 2000s. Those are kind of the ones I have the most of because that's when I was really collecting them when I was a little bit younger. If that's something you guys would be interested to see on the channel, let me know because we could do maybe a little bit more of those fun videos where I go over, my jersey collection. We could go over some of the other stuff like my basketball card collection, NFL card collection, some stuff like that too. Let me know in the comments right now if that's something you guys would like to see going forward. Christopher Allen says, yo, big fan. Welcome to the stream, Christopher Allen. We love having you in here. It is absolutely awesome seeing you guys be in here. You guys have been absolutely awesome. You guys are the best viewers, best subscribers on the planet. We appreciate you so, so much here at Utility Sports. We can't state it enough how much you guys really do mean to us. Sid Steve says he has a lot of football and baseball cards as well, and he would love to see those kind of videos on the channel. That's awesome. Some of those are at home. I'm actually down in a different city here at this moment. I'm not recording from my home at this point, but that is definitely something I can do for you once I do get those cards back into my possession when I'm back at home. King Aladdin says 25 days. I'll be at Jeep Beach at Daytona Beach on April 19th through the 25th. That's awesome, King Aladdin. You are going to have a good time there at Daytona Beach. Wonderful city. I've been there before. Love the beach. I'm a big fan of the beach. Can't go wrong there. Maybe you go get to see a NASCAR race at Daytona. We'll see if you get lucky enough to do something like that. But that's awesome. King Aladdin, thank you for stopping into the stream as well. We really do appreciate you coming in here. And wow, big time trade here. Houston did land Victor Oladipo, or did send Victor Oladipo rather to the Miami Heat. We'll see here if we have any news. Boston works out a trade with Chicago, trading Daniel Tice. That's according to Adrian Wojnarowski. That is a surprising trade as well at this point. Let's go ahead and pull that up right now. Marquise Chris traded to the Spurs. I'd actually thrown him in. So it sounds like Golden State's made a couple moves. Wanamaker goes out the door. Marquise Chris goes out the door. We'll see what they're bringing in. Maybe a couple second-round picks in the future. Trying to build up some draft assets. We'll see. Wojnarowski had tweeted that Boston is trading center Daniel Tice to the Chicago Bulls. Let's see if I can get that pulled up on here. Mo Wagner goes to the Celtics. Mo Wagner just got traded to Chicago today from Washington. Now he gets rerouted to Boston in this deal. Chicago gets Daniel Tice, who they had moved on from Daniel Gafford earlier on in the day. Interesting turn of events there with the center position. Washington landed Daniel Gafford. Boston takes in Mo Wagner, and Chicago gets Daniel Tice, a real turnaround at that center position for those teams. It's interesting that they opted for Mo Wagner. Sid and C says he has a DK rookie card, and I got it from Dollar Tree, and it's worth like $30 now, and it'll go up in the future. That's awesome, Sid, that you were able to get lucky with the DK Metcalf rookie card. Yep, Christopher Allen, Golden State Warriors just did make a trade. That was the trade around Marquise Chris to San Antonio. We don't know what they've landed yet at this point. Probably a future second-round pick is my guess. Here, Sid and C says, what if Warriors get DeRozan? That would be interesting. However, my guess is that's just not going to be the case unless we see Kelly Oubre's name get thrown in there. At this point, I just would not guess that to be the case. Let's go ahead back on to Sham Sharani here on Twitter and see what he has got going on at this point, if there's any other news breaking from him. We still haven't seen the details on the J.J. Redick trade, if J.J. Redick is officially a Dallas Maverick or not. We only have the close on a deal because he has deleted the other ones. At this point, I'm not necessarily sure if the deal is going to be done or not. We will see. So far, who do you guys think has won the trade deadline? For me, I believe it's the Orlando Magic. They brought in 3 first-round picks today, 2 second-round picks, and some nice young players. It's going to be hard for me to see a team that can beat what they were able to bring in. Let me know in the comments section right now what you guys think about the winner, loser of the trade deadline. At this point, I think that I feel really good about what they were able to add there in Orlando. They kind of recentered their franchise now around Markelle Fultz, Jonathan Isaac. Maybe Wendell Carter can really prove to be valuable, and they get a chance to see what Gary Harris can be as well. However, the Heat getting Victor Oladipo, that's a very nice move. They didn't give up almost anything in that deal. They got to be pretty happy with where they're at after that kind of move as well. We will see if there's any other news on that front. Christopher Allen says, yo, bro, Warriors just traded big man Marquise Chris. Bro, do you think we got someone from the Hornets? If you did get someone from the Hornets, it's going to be a lower level player at this point. That's my guess. Who could it be if I were to conjecture about who it could be? Like just off the top of my head here, maybe a guy like Cody Martin or Caleb Martin, one of the Martin brothers. Maybe Nick Richards or Vernon Carey, one of the young centers. However, I'd be surprised if it is one of those guys. Maybe it's just Jalen McDaniels. There's a whole bunch of different options it could be. But my guess is it'd probably just be a second-round pick is really what I think the deal will be. Sid C says he also has a Denzel Mims rookie Prism card, and he thinks the Bulls or Magic won the trade deadline. Yeah, the Bulls did bring in Nikola Vucevic. They also just got Daniel Tice. They addressed their center position. They got much better today as well. I don't want to take any credit away from them. They did take a pretty hefty price on bringing in a 30-year-old center, but I agree here with Nico Miatello. I think the Magic won, and I don't think it's really close. I think that they had easily the best trade deadline. Christopher Allen wants to know what the Warriors got. We don't necessarily know yet on either of their trades for Marquise Chris to San Antonio. We don't know what they got. We also don't know what they got from the Hornets for Brad Wanamaker. We will keep you up to date with that as the news comes rolling in. We are 25 minutes past the trade deadline. We still don't even have some of the information yet. That is kind of the crazy situation that the trade deadline presents itself as. You never really know what's going on until it gets reported on. Teams are figuring it out. Okay, Chris. Okay, so it sounds like Marquise Chris goes with cash to San Antonio, which saves Warriors on luxury tax for an injured player. Okay, so it sounds like the Warriors aren't getting anyone for Marquise Chris. It sounds like it is just a 1-for-nothing trade in order to save themselves some money on the salary cap, which is always a big deal. For those of you who don't know, when you've been in the luxury tax as a repeat team, which the Warriors have been, each dollar technically costs you $3. So a $3 million contract actually costs the owner $9 million. That is why a player like Marquise Chris here gets traded with some cash in order to save themselves some actual money as well when it's a non-important player like Marquise Chris, someone who doesn't really move the needle too much at this point. Let's see here if Shams Charania has any other news for us at this point. It has been a crazy trade deadline. Nikola Vucevic got moved. The Miami Heat made a couple moves. And at this point, the Miami Heat are looking a lot better as well. You have to say that they brought in Nemanja Bjelica today. They also brought in Victor Oladipo. Now they got better at the 4 and the 2 position to complement Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo. I think they did get much better. They didn't have to give up a lot to get Victor Oladipo. They didn't give up basically anything to get Nemanja Bjelica. I think this is a pretty good day for both the Houston Rockets, or not the Houston Rockets, sorry, the Miami Heat and the Orlando Magic. We saw the 2 teams in Florida take care of business in a lot of ways. All right, here's some information. Swap rights. It is a 2022 first-round swap rights, and the pick actually is Brooklyn's pick. This is according to Tim McMahon. I will go pull up his Twitter so you guys can see this right now. He has the news on the Houston Rockets Miami Heat deal. The pick swap here is right here now. Heat sending Avery Bradley, Kelly Olynyk, and a 2022 first-round swap right to Houston. Swap right includes Brooklyn's pick. That is from the Brooklyn Nets. So therefore, this trade is really, really not a great situation for them. Also, we have a little bit more of an update on the Dallas Mavericks. I think this is a terrible trade for the Houston Rockets. I'm going to be completely honest with you guys. If you're a Houston Rockets fan, you should be a little disappointed about it. Here is the news on the Dallas Mavericks. Let's see if we can update this and get the news from Shams Charania. He might have deleted his tweet again, though, about the Dallas Mavericks. If so, I do know what it said, though, so I can say it. Oh, here it is. Okay. New Orleans has sent J.J. Redick and Nico Melli to Dallas. So Nico Melli going with J.J. Redick over to Dallas. Let's see here. What could that look like between the Mavericks and the Pelicans? Looking at the salary situation here, Redick and Melli together only make about $17 million. It could just be James Johnson and maybe a low-end pick, possibly. Crazy thing here, Pelicans just gave up all their floor spacing. And that is incredibly dangerous there. I'm very, very surprised that they're willing to give up not only their best shooter, but their second best shooter as well. Yep, we have the deal here. Like Nico Miatello says, it has to be James Johnson for sure. I thought so as well. James Johnson, Wesley Owundu, and a second-round pick go to New Orleans for J.J. Redick and Nico Melli. I had originally thought that it would just be James Johnson and a second-round pick for Redick. And sure enough, it's basically that, but Wesley Owundu also goes, and Nico Melli comes back in. Acquire 2 shooters there for Dallas. I like that move. Emo Kid says, finally a Mavs fan. Refresh. Yep, we definitely need to do that here on the stream. That has the latest news here on the Twitter sphere. And here it is. Let's pull this up for you guys so you can see it. And this is the news. This is the breaking move that the Dallas Mavericks have made. They send James Johnson, Wesley Owundu, and a second-round pick to New Orleans to acquire J.J. Redick and Nico Melli. I like that trade for the Dallas Mavericks. You bring in some shooting at this point. J Mouse wants to know, what did the Warriors get? So far, it doesn't sound like anything. It sounds like you just gave up Marquise Chris for basically free, giving up some cash to get him off of your salary cap books. That is the situation. Emo Kid says, hope we can get Drummond next. Yeah, definitely that would be a great situation if we can get him in the buyout market. We badly need someone who can rebound the basketball. Dwight Powell just doesn't get the job done. Willie Cauley-Stein does not get the job done. We need to badly improve our presence on the glass next to Kristaps Porzingis. And I think that he would be a great pick-and-roll option as well with Luka Doncic. I'd love to know what you guys would think about Drummond to the Dallas Mavericks. I think that's one of the teams that make the most sense for Drummond, to be completely honest. Christopher Allen wants to know, do you think Andre Drummond will go to the Warriors because of the buyout? No, I don't think so. I think that the Warriors are going to be more focused on James Wiseman, which is a much better situation to be in. You have a young, dominant center in James Wiseman who should be getting, all the run at that center position. I just think Drummond, I think it's really between 2 or 3 places at this point. I think the Lakers make some sense with Anthony Davis out. They could really use another big man there. I think that the Brooklyn Nets make a lot of sense. They could use another big man. However, I'm not necessarily sure if that's going to happen. And I also think that the other landing spot for Drummond is the Dallas Mavericks. Those are the 3 that really jump out to me, are the Lakers, Nets, and Mavericks. I think the Mavericks are his actual best fit. However, the Lakers and Nets are a little bit closer to winning a championship. And if Drummond does want to win a chip this year, those would be his 2 best places to probably go. Emo Kid wants to know about how about KP and Brunson for Wiggins, Wiseman, Nico, and the first-round pick that's protected 1 through 3 from Minnesota. I'm not trading Kristaps Porzingis for almost anybody in the league. I don't want to trade Kristaps at all. I love what Kristaps brings. I think we just need to have a little bit of patience with his injury history. I know it's a little disheartening. I know it's a little disappointing. But all in all, as a Mavericks fan, seeing what Kristaps Porzingis really can do when he's healthy, I just don't want to ever pass up on him. Emo Kid, thank you so much for stopping in the stream. I hope you have enjoyed it so far. If you have, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any utility sports content. That would be meaning a lot. Sid and C says he's so excited for his spring break so he can watch our streams and videos all day long. That's awesome, Sid, and you've been absolutely killing it with the support. We're going to try and get you as much coverage and content as we can the next few days and weeks. And it's awesome because at this point, you guys have been absolutely killing it. And LaMarcus Aldridge at this point is finalizing a contract buyout with the San Antonio Spurs. Daniel Tice has been traded. Yes, he got traded for Mo Wagner. Wagner goes to Boston. Daniel Tice goes over to Chicago. And Emo Kid wants to know, would I fire Rick Carlisle? Right now, I wouldn't. It's tough. The thing is, I know a lot of people are going to be very disappointed with how the season's gone for the Dallas Mavericks at this point. But right now, we are above 500 by 4 games. We had to deal with COVID. We had a terrible situation with COVID this year when we lost a lot of starters, Josh Richardson, Maxi Kleber being 2 of them, Dorian Finney-Smith as well. Right now at this point, we are much better off just, I think, holding on to Rick Carlisle and being a little patient. Luka Doncic is only 21 years old. We've got a long time to go before we have to really worry about winning a championship with Luka Doncic. We've got about 5 more years until I'd be starting to really sweat. When he's 26 years old, think about that. 5 years from now, he'll be 27. He's 22. He just turned 22 in February. But all in all, I just think that it is very, very tough at this point to see Rick Carlisle get fired. I would not want him fired at this point. Merking Jamari says, sup utility, I'm mostly an NFL fan. I know nothing about the NBA, but I'll stay in and ask a few questions. That's awesome, Jamari. Welcome to the stream. Love having you in here. It means a lot. It means a lot having you in here, Jamari. You've been one of the best subscribers on the channel for quite some time now. You come into almost all the streams. You leave some great comments on all of our videos. And we'll have some more great NFL content, too, for you. Expect maybe an NFL mock draft tomorrow, even, if that's something you guys are interested in. We are planning on getting another one out this weekend at some point. Austin will actually be in the same city as me for a little bit. So maybe that might be an in-person video as well, where him and I are actually together. We'll see, though, if that is how that ends up playing out. Emo Kid says, if we land 7 or 8 this season, we should look up in the offseason. Definitely, the Mavericks, it's going to be just if they finish 7 or 8. But we've got a lot of momentum. It's not out of the question that we could still finish top 5 in the Western Conference. Just looking at the Western Conference itself, we're only 2 games back of the Denver Nuggets. Everyone keeps talking about the Denver Nuggets like they're having this great season. And sure, they've been playing very well. And everyone keeps talking about the Mavericks like they're having a disastrous year. And we're 2 games back moving forward. I think that we're in a very good situation. An Emo Kid here says that Nate Hinton, Tyler Bay, and Tyrell Terry are better than Josh Green. #facts. I think Tyrell Terry is for sure better. And I think that Tyler Bay could definitely be better than Josh Green. I actually had looked at Tyrell Terry as a top 10 player in the NBA draft. I thought he was number 10 on my big board. He's a guy who I think once he gets some run in the NBA can be a very, very good player. I think he's a perfect complement to Luka Doncic. Now he's out with some personal reasons right now, but I hope we get to see these rookies play a little bit more. We got to see Tyler Bay a little bit last night. He caught a nice lob from Trey Burke. And I think that this team just needs to be focused on looking at their long-term future. And I think Rick Carlisle can be still a part of it at this point. Christopher Allen says, if you were the Warriors, what would you focus on? I'd focus on development right now for James Wiseman. And I'd also focus on making moves that are going to help me next year, such as bringing in Spencer Dinwiddie. I think that would have been great. Yeah, Emo Kid, Tyrell Terry is going to learn from JJ Redick. I actually do like that move in terms of having Redick as a mentor for the remainder of the year for Tyrell Terry. I think that is going to be very helpful. I think Tyrell Terry has a lot of talent moving forward. Sid and C with an NFL question says, who do you think goes to the Super Bowl next year? I think the Kansas City Chiefs go to the Super Bowl. They're still the best team in the NFL, in my opinion, on paper. I know they have to figure out their tackle spot. Could use some wide receiver help. However, I'm not going to doubt Patrick Mahomes. I'm not going to doubt Andy Reid. They have shown time and time again that they need to improve in those areas. And also, I think for the NFC, it's a little tougher. It's hard to rule out Green Bay, but I mean Tampa Bay, they kept all of their guys. You know, it's hard to say we don't have a rematch at this point, but you never really know. You know, it's one game playoff, so you're looking at, you know, if the Buccaneers just come out flat one day, very possible a team could upset them. But at this point, I would have to guess that we're going to get a little bit of a rematch of the Kansas City Chiefs versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Those two teams have had great offseasons so far. Christopher Allen talking about the Warriors says that they need a better bench, no cap. Yeah, definitely. That's the one thing you sacrificed when you brought in Kevin Durant. Obviously, a worthwhile move, but at the same time, once he left, you lost a lot of that bench. You need to build that back up. I thought Spencer Dinwiddie was a no-brainer for you guys. Doesn't seem like you were able to bring him in this trade deadline, though. We'll see how you guys go about it. The nice thing is you have a lot of draft pick assets. And yeah, they're trending in the right direction. I mean, James Wiseman, he's going to be great in his career. I really love James Wiseman, what he brings. I think that Klay Thompson, once he's back, you guys are going to be instantly much, much better. And you also have the Wolves pick top three protected this year that you guys can add in and also bring in a couple new pieces as well that I think are going to be nice for you. And if that pick doesn't convey this year, it rolls over to an unprotected first next year. So you guys have a lot of different things that can go right for you guys that, you know, you guys are just in a good spot. If you're a Golden State Warriors fan, you get to watch Steph Curry still every single game. That is, you know, one of the best things to get to do in basketball. He's extremely fun to watch. He's very, 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 very good. The Rockets have had a terrible, terrible trade deadline, terrible season at this point. There has not been a lot more news, guys. I'm actually about to. Emo Kid says in 21 draft, thinks the Mavericks will draft Luka Garza. He would be interesting. I like Luka Garza a lot. I actually do have a couple NBA mock drafts on the channel. You guys should go check those out after the stream here. I'm actually going to wrap this up here, guys, because at this point there's not a lot more news. And I still have some homework to actually finish here for college. That's due in about an hour. But I had to get the stream in for you guys. You know how much I love coming on, doing this for you guys. So I'm going to go work on that. I hope you guys really do enjoy these streams. We'll have another one coming up pretty soon. Christopher Allen, to answer you real quick. I think Jordan Poole's a nice young player. I don't think he's really ever going to be a big-time contributor, but I think he could be looked at as a nice 7th or 8th man on a team that's going to have a role off the bench as a scorer off the wing. Hopefully you guys really do enjoy these streams. Make sure to go check out some of the other videos on the channel, whether it's an NFL mock draft. We do one of those a week. Some NBA mock drafts. Those are going to be a lot more frequent here coming up in the future post NFL draft when I can put a little bit more time into it. Watched a ton of college basketball already this year. And I do usually 100+ page report on the NBA prospects. So that's something that you guys will get to see as well as we move forward. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the stream. We love having you guys in here so much. Thank you all for being the best subscribers on the channel. We love having you be a part of what we do here at Utility Sports. Check out our socials in the description, and we'll catch you guys in the next video.